My eyes are watering so much I can't read.
All right.
Welcome back to Pork Chops, Rice, and Peaches.
God,
I'm
you don't
Richard.
ever give me a second in the editing process. You gotta give me a space. I'm Noah, and this is
Mama Peaches.
You should have just gone with it. It would have sounded cooler. You cut yourself off.
Well, I didn't want to cut her off.
That's okay.
I have to sleep with both eyes closed at night.
All right, and this is part one of a two-part video that will be spliced together because last time I did this, I only announced that at the halfway point. So just so you know, this is going to be the first half of a video, and then by the time this section ends, we will immediately be jumping into the second half, which will be filmed. I don't know when, but we'll have different shirts on and everything.
I thought we.
The rate you're reading this, he'll have it done by next week.
Good.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah. I'll
so
move
Although
through
it will
quickly.
be gone next week.
So we are covering Water 7.
we're covering half of Water.
Yeah, half of Water 7.
We are covering up through, in this first section, for those of you tracking at home, up through chapter 346. And if you need a refresher, that's the one that ends with Luffy bursting through the wall to Iceberg's room when CP9 is there with Robin.
CP9 sounds like when you say it that way, it sounds like a Star Wars droid.
Right?
It's CP9. Beep, 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 beep. This story opens up with a train on the ocean.
Yes.
And I remember thinking to myself, of course it does, because it's Oda. And with Oda, pretty much anything can happen like that.
We have some fantastic recordings of you as you were reading it. Thank you for getting those, by the way.
So I need to tell a story about this.
Yeah.
Okay? So I read all the comments from the last video where they were saying, please get his reaction to what's happening.
Yeah.
So we were in a hotel last week and he's reading and I would hear, whoa! And I'd be... yeah. Be like, wait,
I believe
wait.
I believe it.
Go. And to the point where after about a day or two of this, he was like, no, put it away. Not a phone moment. Not a phone moment.
So I'll be looking through those and splicing them interchangeably within this video. So if it cuts away to vertical footage, that's what it is.
That is what it is.
Yeah, well, some of those comments I'm going to share here today. I think 2 of them.
Please do. Save me the editing.
I'll save you the editing on that. So I read this, you know what, I read this opening section a week and a half, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I did not start reviewing it until late this afternoon, but it was early this morning. I woke up thinking to myself, this is how much One Piece has free rent in my head. I woke up thinking, I wonder what happens when a big wave hits the train. How many trains have derailed and sunk to the bottom of the ocean? Do they have you know, when you wake up thinking about this stuff, something's wrong. Something is seriously wrong with me, honestly. Man. Okay, I don't know where to start. And this is certainly not a start at the beginning thing. Totally and completely not a because my notes are so out of order. It would have taken me a week to put everything back to order. Is this the same notebook,
by the way?
This is the same
Yep,
notebook.
I just saw Mumble
right.
Cricket.
Okay,
all right.
and so and then that's a good reason. So I'm going to jump in right here because this was one of the videos. I'm going to save you the editing. All right. There's going to be. I wrote this on the 6th of June at 10 o'clock at night while we were in a hotel in Wichita, Kansas. All right, Wichita, just skip it. It is not a destination.
Unfortunately, they get all the good concerts.
Yeah, do they really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Have you ever stayed in a Wichita hotel?
Yes, I have. A few.
I don't know what was worse. The hotel from 4 or 5 years ago where there were bullet holes in our door to the hotel room, or this past one where we pull up to the hotel and the carport area is surrounded by police caution tape, right, with a squad car sitting there. And then the next day, it was just no caution tape and 2 squad cars. And then later that day, a squad car parked at the other end of the building And then that night, I walked across the street to QT, and there's armed QT security. I mean, this guy looked like he was pulled out of Afghanistan.
Oh, yeah, we've got
and
QT security.
Yeah.
You've never seen those before?
I've never seen those before.
Yep.
I've never seen a man
They pay good,
like
too.
towering over me, buff as can be, thumbs locked in his bulletproof vest, and yeah, it was slightly intimidating. There's not a lot of people who make me feel small. That man made me feel short. All right. So there's going to be a point.
Actually, you just brought up a point that
Yes.
we're always sitting down for these. There's no sense of scale.
They have.
I don't know if we've ever.
You've never seen us standing up next to
in
each
like
other.
full frame. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah. 6'2", 5'9" on a good day.
Fuck you. It's 5'10".
He thinks.
I know.
There's going to be. We're going to get this started. I know we are.
Eventually, this will get started. Eventually, we will talk about One Piece.
Oh my goodness. Okay. There's going to be a point in this story where Robin's going to have to decide on whether she will save herself at the expense of the Straw Hat crew or change her ways and truly become a Straw Hat. She isn't one yet, and she hasn't been one. You know, she asked to be allowed onto the crew. Luffy said yes, following his gut like he always does, because he has this supernatural ability to judge people's characters. But
right, he is very good at it.
She hasn't committed to being a member of the crew yet. She's using them. Something that the Admiral kind of confirmed when he gave them the warning about her. How much will Luffy's strength of character affect her decision? That is what my note is. At what point in this story coming up in the future is she going to have to make a decision between her instincts and the crew?
So, funny you bring that up, because my very first note is, and I had the chapter number for this one. It was like, in 322, the team actively cares for Robin's health after being frozen by Aokiji. Nami's telling her to rest. Sanji's offering food. Everyone's just like, no, take a break, take the break. And then in the very next chapter, all the crew's arguing about what they're going to do, and they get to Water 7 and everything. And she's just sitting there and she's smiling. It's very much the same. I think it was the same pose that she does when she says assassination. You know, when she had her
right.
Like,
what's your specialty?
She's
Assassination.
She's sitting there and she's just smiling and she's enjoying it.
Okay.
So those were two of my very first notes when rereading this section. Because for the most part, like in this. What's great about this section of story is that we got enough time with her on Skypiea and Longring where she truly started to settle into the crew and start to feel comfortable on the ship. And that's what we saw happening.
But there's a difference between feeling comfortable on the ship and becoming a member of the crew.
Committing.
Yes.
Is she committed?
Yes.
He looked at me at one of these videos. You'll see it when you watch it. And asked me a question.
I think I know what. I've watched all the videos, so
I looked and I felt like, you know when Luffy's lying, where he goes,
I saw that video.
I had to look away, and he was
welcome
like,
to my life.
So, your gut. Is Robin good or Robin bad? Is Robin with them or Robin not with them?
We sat and we watched the whole introduction 2 years ago to the world of One Piece, and Robin was already introduced to me as a member of the crew and the archaeologists. So it's going to turn out in the end that she's a member of the crew and she's either good all along or she's going to turn good. I don't think this is a good versus bad issue. I think there's a huge backstory that I am completely unaware of. And that this doesn't come down to, yeah, look at that face. She's
Sorry,
as bad.
I don't have
she's
the
as
poker
bad
face
as
that Noah does.
She's as bad as Noah. So, but I really don't think this is a good or a bad issue. I think that there's stressors going on in her life that she's dealing with. But I think what I wrote is actually closer to the truth.
Cool.
He goes, "Oh, you're not as good about it as Noah." Or something like that. He's like, that's the same face Noah gives me when I couldn't.
Well, I think it
I don't know
actually.
how you keep a straight face.
It might have been that paragraph that I led with right there. Yes.
I have tricks. I will not be disclosing them at this time.
Yeah.
Well, part of it is I'm usually bent down reading the notes, and he's usually looking at the camera making
Well, I
faces.
look you in the eyes as you like make your observations a lot of times.
Sure,
so,
sure,
you know,
yeah.
Didn't help that.
I only ever have to hold
Camera
out
here.
until he like finally gives up, and I win the staring contest.
All right.
I never knew we were in a staring contest. Okay, that's cool. I made a note to myself, and this is kind of a one that this might play out now that I've gotten this far into this, because this was probably chapter 343. 338, 339. It's 339. Do we see a fight between Nico, Robin, and Luffy? And how does that play out? I mean, just looking at their individual devil fruit powers and his ability to overcome any opponent, and her go-to, I've been asking this video after video after video, is she snapping that guy's neck? And assassination is her specialty. She can't snap Luffy's neck. He's made of rubber.
That is true.
Okay.
That is
I
true.
never really thought about that. He's like
it's
the
a-
one
it's-
person she couldn't use that on.
It's frustrating to go back and rewatch some early One Piece because there's a lot of attacks that damage Luffy that
Shouldn't.
really shouldn't.
Right.
Because if he's absorbing bullets, a punch shouldn't really do anything.
Right.
So there's some retroactive.
Mhm.
You know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
Well,
they know what I'm getting at. But
yeah.
but also, yeah, it's but yeah.
So,
no, it's,
so just his, when we watched Foxy Silver try to flip him, and in the arm stretches,
yeah.
it's a total and complete fail. Yeah, her go-to move is not going to work on him, and so it was just a curiosity. Much stronger now that I've gotten to the point where I have chapter 348, 47, 46, the end of 346.
yeah, 346.
So that was kind of interesting. Robin warns about a darkness in her that will destroy the crew. Okay, we get that, and we see that she's this big danger, and then
At what point do we get her backstory? Is that during Enies Lobby?
It is during Enies Lobby.
is that when we're going to get it? Is Enies Lobby?
Oh yeah, that is the
Yes.
next video.
So,
Well-
all of your questions that you have been asking about Nico Robin since the beginning
will be answered
will
in the
be
next
answered
arc.
in the Enies
Yeah.
Lobby.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Pretty much.
And I'm going to sit there with the camera. Watch it.
Oh man. And
So-
he's just going to
so-
be.
All right. So Oda, I'm going to skip away from this for just a little
go
bit.
for it.
All right.
Hit us with it.
Oda's development as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We're 300 some odd chapters in. How many years of production is this?
I do not know.
Because he has hit his stride here. He has leveled up to level 2 of writing, and I'm as interested in his development as a writer and an illustrator, more so as a writer, as I am in the course of this story. And there's been this pattern that I've been a little bit frustrated with the stories up until this point, is that you have
Mid 2000s.
you have Yeah, that'd be about 10 years in.
8 to 10,
Okay,
somewhere in there.
then that makes perfect sense because you would have this pattern where you get your introduction and you get this long, slow build-up, then you get a big battle, and then you get the incredible meat at the end of that arc. And then you go into the next slow introduction, and then you go through the build. And that pattern's been repeating itself over and over again. And here, this story is just galloping along from the beginning. I mean, the intro might be the train station, and it's very, very short.
Yeah.
And outside of the creepiness of Coco, the station master, I mean, she is just
She's great.
Oda only knows how to draw 2 types of women.
You know.
Hot or hag.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, she's actually called a hag in
They
this,
do.
right?
Yes. That's why that is the term.
Every time I watched that, I kept thinking to myself, where is this girl's parents? And why are they letting her go with this woman?
Granddaughter.
It's her grandmother.
Well, I know, but
Yeah,
it's
but-
like, I'm sorry if I still couldn't let, even if that was my mother, couldn't let my kids have gone. You know, I mean, they're out there on the train, and it gets worse. You know, but yeah,
Well, yeah, you know. And,
you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
and the sound effect that they keep giving her,
Yeah.
which,
With
you know,
when she's drinking.
yes.
Yes.
I would absolutely love for everybody to make their impersonation video of her drinking with that sound effect and share it with us. That would be
That's
great.
funny.
Same sound effect that Doctor makes in when we meet Chopper,
Kirilluk or
the woman.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I think
yeah,
it's just the drinking effect.
Yeah,
Are you
is
talking
that the
about in the
drinking
anime
effect?
what they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
so not only do we get this storyline, I mean, just there's no breaks, there's no let up.
Yeah.
But there's 3 separate stories taking place at the same time, and all 3 of them are moving, just galloping through the thing. Why are you making that face? That
I'm determining how I want to say this and if it's worth saying. Okay, so what you just described, the typical arc structure.
right?
All right, I'm gonna. Oda took that typical arc structure, and he spread it across 3 arcs. So you're talking about galloping along at a pace. Water 7 is the slow buildup. Enies Lobby is the big fight, and post Water 7 is that cooldown with all the meat that
You know what?
But he did it over the course of 2 full-size
Okay.
arcs and a half arc. So
but
adding on, that's me adding on to your development as a writer.
yeah, okay.
Obviously, he is jumping ahead in how he's writing.
This is just screaming along. And so here's
Yes.
the whole thing about the videos, and this goes right into when we were in the hotel. I'd be reading and reading and reading and reading, and I would need a break. And the story wasn't giving me a break. So I would have to close the book, and I'd look at my watch and be like, 30 minutes had gone by. And I'd be like, wow. And then, of course,
Yeah.
what? Like, you know, and I'd give myself 5 minutes, and then I'd pick the book up, and then I would just pick up where I left off and gallop along, and it would be another 30 minutes. And he noticed it was always 30-minute increments before I needed to give myself a break because the story wasn't giving me a break. We've got the Usopp tale going on. We've got the Robin tale going on. We've got the crew with the merry-go going on, plus all the other factions that are taking place on Water 7, throwing a typhoon.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting. In a good way.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
exhausting in a good way.
Yeah.
And so it was Saturday night, and we had a very early Sunday morning, and it was midnight. And Mama Peaches said, I hate to, you gotta stop.
You will read this all night.
I would have.
Because he was
Yeah.
that hooked. I've never seen him not be able to put the book down like this book. It's
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So when we were talking on the phone, and you told me to make sure that I shared this, when we were talking on the phone, you said that this might be the pinnacle of writing of the
This-
One Piece.
It for most people
Mhm.
who read the manga, it is between this section of story
Mhm.
and another section of story that honestly isn't that far away.
which one?
Marineford.
Okay.
It's between that one and this part of the story that are considered like the best of One Piece.
Okay.
And as I said, as I mentioned on the phone, that's not to say that the story goes downhill or anything. It's just the highs
are spectacularly high.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the writing of this is where the story is in full swing. It's at full stride, and there's just so much.
There's so much. There's so much going on.
And yeah.
So I made the observation to you on the phone. I said every artist has their signature piece, right? Whether it's a written work or whether it's a symphony or you name it. And the question is this Oda's signature section of the story?
Yet to be determined, because we are
still
starting to enter the
final phase.
The final phase of the story, and if he can capture everything in the ending of this story, it could top it. It just depends on how well he writes it.
Well, you know what? That will be very
Honestly,
interesting.
If he just writes a satisfying ending, I'll be happy. That's all I care about.
So I made the observation to you, and so I will share it with everybody. It was one of the few times we talked behind the scenes in advance. When I said that every artist has their signature piece, I said there's Van Gogh, and then there's Van Gogh, right? There's the pieces that everybody knows, and everybody loves. Your Starry, Starry Night, Haystacks. You said Sunflowers, and then I'm sure he's got a body of work that is lesser known. And so it'll be interesting to see where this ends up placing in the whole One Piece journey. But there's clearly a development as a writer.
Yes.
And if this is the slow build-up, I cannot imagine what Enies lobby is going to be like and everything afterwards.
I'm just reading your notes.
Yeah. I have a whole bunch of notes in there. Anyways,
you do.
So, I love the writing part of that as much as I do the storyline. So I'm looking if there's any other notes on Robin. We'll just, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back.
Start going through it.
I'm going to start going through it.
What do you think is how it's going to play out with Robin?
Well, okay, so I have the misfortune of having had Robin introduced to me as a member of the crew and an archaeologist in our very first video. So what's going to happen is that she's going to join the crew. What I don't know is how she's going to join the crew. And I don't know what's going to happen and what's going to be revealed about her that's going to make her choose to join the crew. But it's very clear that she's got to make a choice to join or not. I can't imagine that I'm going to be that wrong on that section that I wrote.
It's interesting, and you'll appreciate this, and without saying it, because he's, already has that in his mind that she's going to join the crew. He asks the question, does Robin and Luffy battle? And
This is.
you know what
I know what you're
about.
getting to. I know what you're getting to, and I know the. This is why I have to be very careful with how I word things, because I don't ever want to tip. I don't want to ever tip him off in that, but I think you did a good job with that one, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. The page, it's
alternate way of looking at
yes, Obi-Wan, from a certain point of view.
My job is done.
Yes. Yes.
These two you two so love talking about me behind my back on this journey. I know you do.
It is quite fun.
Yeah, well, that's okay. So
it's easier in a text message because I know you're not going to see it.
Well,
and I know
I said this a couple videos back where I have to kind of forget what I know and try to look at this as if I were reading it for the first time. And I made the observation, if I were reading this for the first time, I wouldn't trust Robin, and I wouldn't have trusted her from the beginning. right?
Yeah.
And so what I'm allowing myself to do is I'm allowing myself to deal with all of these what ifs that I would have normally had
Yeah.
if I were reading this for the first time.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's interesting things that come out, and I was noticing some of them today. And let me see if I can real quick put my hands on it. I'm having the same conversation that Nami and Luffy are having, and that is Robin an enemy or a friend? Right?
Actually, I think that's Zoro that's saying that.
That's Nami?
No, it's not pointed. It's not.
That's Luffy.
It's literally. So it starts with this, which should have been right for this. Isn't it about time?
No, you're right. Yeah, that is Zoro saying.
An enemy or a friend.
I have a hard time with the bubbles without the arrows and stuff like that. Yeah,
typically that indicates someone off screen.
Right, and so that's
probably usually the last person.
This one is over Luffy, and this one is over Nami. So
there's a fun little. Why'd you have to do that? Why'd you have to do that to him? That was rude. That was rude.
You know,
that was.
You can edit
that was rude.
No, that's okay. That's all right. That's all right. So you can tell that what the Admiral said, Okiji was right, and that she uses people, and then she moves on, and she's the only one to survive. With this section where she says we'll never meet again, she's talking to Sanji and Chopper. I didn't, thank you for being so nice to me. I didn't deserve it, but thank you. But she's very clearly used to cutting her ties and moving on. This is just part of her modus operandi. I also noticed in that battle that when Sanji is talking to her, there's none of the googly-eyed hearts love thing. He's angry. And he's angry when she disappears and she can't find him.
There's also a great little piece earlier, and I don't remember where, but it's when she's walking around with Chopper before she separates. And Chopper's asking about all the masks that people are wearing. And she says, oh, there's a party on a different island. That's a costume party. And Chopper's like, what? How'd you figure that out? She's like, oh, I'm just always listening to people. It's a habit from when I was a kid.
Right. Listening to people and reading their moods is what she says.
My translation was probably different. But
okay.
No. Just showing that she's always paying attention.
Always.
She,
Well, then I'm going to ask you this, and you flip this one up on the screen. This one you will have to show everybody. Look at this expression on her face. There's an announcement over the PA system in the town that they're searching for the Straw Hats and they want to kill every last one of them. What does that expression say to you?
It says exactly what Oda wanted it to say.
Yeah, thanks. That was a non-commit.
You're welcome. No. Because, I'm not even going to say it. Put your book away. I'm sticking to my answer.
You want to add to that?
No, don't add to that.
No.
Don't cue him into anything. No, that I will say is a purposefully drawn face because Oda wants you to react to it in a certain way.
Well, I don't know if I'm reacting to it in a certain way, but that face says to me sadness. That's exactly the thought I had when I saw that face. Sadness.
That face is designed to convey what Oda wanted you to feel.
You can say that about every panel in this series.
I'm going to put this back. I'm going to clip this. I'm going to put it in the Enies lobby video, and I'm going to stand by. I'm going to stick to my guns on that one.
Why?
Because you know what I mean.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Whatever. Okay.
Lit people.
It's intentionally going to be interpreted differently by different people.
Okay.
So that is what I mean by it.
So we're gonna. Well, I think there's a part of Nami, or not Nami, of Robin that cares about this crew. I'm going to stick by that. Okay. She's going to have to if she's gonna stay with them and become a member of the crew full time. So let's.
I already know what I'm calling the Enies lobby video.
What's that?
I'm not telling you yet.
Okay.
I'll tell you off camera.
Oh, God.
I'll text it to you.
You two are horrible. You are absolutely horrible. So then there's the. So she gives the warning about the darkness inside of her, and that that the crew doesn't want to see that. The whole question about is she an enemy or a friend, but then you get into the whole thing about the poneglyphs and the Pluton, and we get to that section of of this weapon, and Iceberg says that she's the only person in the world that can read the poneglyphs, and that she's always been the only person, and that's why they've been after her since she was a kid, which I'm really looking forward to seeing all of the background information on that. But then that triggered a memory when I saw that, and then the memory that it triggered was all the way back here. This is the value of a notebook.
Yes, it is. Is this what I think it is?
All the way back here in Skypiea.
Yes!
All right. The ancient weapon that bears the name of the god Poseidon. Another weapon different from the Pluton and Alabasta. And then the line, I hereby guide this document to its end, Pirate Goldie Roger. And then Robin discovers, and we read this on camera.
Should have been... What was the one that was in Alabasta? Is it all three at this point?
Oh, you can't ask me those. I have no memory for stuff like
I think
that.
it was. I think all three have been mentioned at this point. I might be wrong on that, but I think
No.
all three have been.
Not by this point.
Okay, never mind.
Only two. This is only two. But Robin discovers
mind.
that, like Goldie Roger, she has to guide the poneglyph information that she has read on to the end of the Grand Line to Raftel. And then you told me on camera, Crocus mentions that in Laboon.
Yes.
Okay, so there's this like she. There was almost this sense of satisfaction that she finally had a mission, that she had a goal, that she had a purpose.
Oh my God, you are so f***ing close! Wow!
I mean,
Wow!
I had that thought there, but then, you couple this with it, and so the question is, really, is this mission and is this purpose incompatible with her being a member of the crew? A full-fledged, I'm invested member of the crew? Or will this always keep her separate emotionally? And we're talking about a person who doesn't call people by their names, calls people by their positions. She rarely uses a name.
I'm so glid you noticed that.
We talked about that last video.
I know. I'm just so glad it's one of those things that has stuck with you. And
it sticks with me.
She's just a Rubik's Cube wrapped in an enigma, wrapped in a mystery.
Yeah.
You're just trying to peel. You've been trying to peel for the last, 5 videos? Ever since Alabasta ended and Jaya began, you have been trying to figure this woman out.
Because she appeared on the ship. She just, even from her beginning, she was just...
Yeah, but you didn't know who she was then.
Yeah, I know.
I suspected who she was, and I kept trying to confirm it.
You thought it was
Nobody
Alvida.
would answer this.
No, I did ask once if it was Alvida because Alvida took that skinny form.
Slim.
Slim. The slim fruit.
Yeah.
Slim fruit. God, if you could actually make that, you'd
the
be
one that I
a billionaire.
wanted.
Was the slim fruit?
They asked what devil fruit I'd want, and I said, well, the slim.
That was funny. That is the third one.
All right. So look, of all the characters in the story that we've met so far, she is the most intriguing for a variety of different reasons. She just is.
Yeah, she is.
And he's stringing us along on this one.
Yes.
Yes,
So,
it's the most mysterious.
yes. Anyway, so there's that. So I'm really looking forward to this. Was she a member of CP9? Was she working for the government? Was she being blackmailed by the government? Are they holding something over her head? There's all of these different questions of all these different possibilities, and now I just have to wait and start reading again to find.
I'll tell you that one of those is correct. I'm not going to tell you which one, but one of those is out of 3-4 options you just gave.
Right.
One of those is correct. One of those is correct because I don't want to.
All right. So.
to reward his thinking.
So we meet Iceberg, Kaku, Khalifa, Rob Lucci, and my very first thought was, what devil fruit did they eat? Which is almost kind of like, now that it's going to be the underlining, question to everybody. And then, so today I'm rereading, and I noticed something in the artwork I didn't notice before. You two are as bad as he is looking at the camera.
Don't a couple of them get their devil fruits? A couple of them
Yeah, no
don't have
spoilers.
them yet. I'm not.
Don't spoil.
I'm not gonna
That is
spoil
spoilers.
it.
That is spoilers. They don't have devil fruits at this point.
At this point.
No.
So a couple of them are going to. Well, except that Rob Lucci.
Yeah.
Rob Lucci.
Yes.
You're gonna
Okay,
get
Rob
spoiled.
Lucci, who looks like Slash.
Yeah.
And he holds his hand out, and little circle beams come out of it while he's fighting Luffy there for just a little bit. And I just said, okay, wait a minute. What's his power? What is he shooting out of his hand? Here, I'll show you. I will show you. It's in a fight, and everybody knows. It's well established. I have a hard time with the artwork.
Yeah.
I very much have a hard time with the artwork, and so. Oh, by the way, this probably predates Ahmed, the dead terrorist, but Kaku's head, his mask, looks like Ahmed, the dead terrorist. I keep waiting for him to look at the audience and say, "I'll kill you." Yeah, where is it here?
It does.
Yeah, it does. That's Ahmed right there. It is.
Are you sure it's not in the previous book?
No, I'm positive it's not in the previous book. Because I saw it today, and I was only looking through this book today.
The
Unless
Nico
they-
no Mi leopard, also known as the cat fruit.
He's not there yet. Stop spoiling. He's not there yet.
Okay.
I was just saying.
I
what's
can't.
this-
It's not
Okay.
that though. I'm
right.
trying. That's why I'm
All right.
asking.
I'm
It's
sorry.
not that.
Sorry.
So I know.
You did not have me here. I'm sorry.
No, that's it.
Guarantee you he'll forget it.
No, I won't. Actually, I
No,
won't.
no,
I
he
won't.
He's
Oh,
getting,
yeah, I
be-
don't
he's getting
remember
better.
anything.
He's getting better about. Are you sure it wasn't during the? My point is, are you sure it wasn't during the fight at the shipyard?
Yeah. Well. Okay.
Hold on, because they have that fight at the shipyard. Who was it? He'll never get
I
away
went through
with this.
so much. Of,
I know
One
you
Piece
did. Let me
today.
see. Frankie back. Blah blah blah. Oh yeah, Frankie. I love that panel. Yes, it's where. Here, now they show up. Are you sure it's not in this section? Is my point.
Okay,
And
so-
he doesn't have anything. I just wanted to know what you were looking at, and because it's not Polly, right? Because Polly had the rope. Frankie was shooting bullets at him.
Do we? I don't want to spend a lot of screen time trying to dig this up. So what I will do?
You mean this?
No, it was something else. This.
This is Rob Lucci.
It was this right here.
It's just a shockwave effect.
Is that all that is?
That's all that is. That's just a cloud of smoke.
So is that
and
like a
shockwave
punch that
effect.
hit him and a
Yeah.
shock? Oh, okay, I thought he was shooting something out of his hand.
No, that's what Frankie does.
I'm so disappointed
I did a spoiler for nothing.
in myself. Okay, Iceberg.
Yes.
I took a look at Iceberg and I looked at his mouth and I said, "Oh, Clutch Cargo." And do you know Clutch Cargo? Okay, he looks like a Clutch Cargo character.
Yes, he does.
I keep waiting for his mouth to move like a human mouth inside of a frozen picture.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know Clutch Cargo, Google it. That was from my childhood. Clutch Cargo came on at the end of the cartoon day after all the good cartoons were over with. And you watched Clutch Cargo only because you didn't want to give up cartoons. All right. It came, so some of the notes I wrote to myself, Iceberg is too clean. Something's wrong with him. And then this is early on when you first meet him.
Mhm.
And he asks about Nico Robin. And so I don't know, my hackles went up right away. But the deeper we go into this, first of all, how many times can that guy get shot and survive? There's something going on.
A
there.
lot.
You know, he ate the target fruit, and he doesn't. You know, I don't know. Something's going on there. I think I counted 7 bullet wounds. I was really surprised. I knew that eventually we'd replace the merry-go, and I didn't think it would be this soon. But then I realized, wait a minute, what's fast for me, binging 300 chapters, was not fast in the development of the story.
No.
So, you know, if it's 10 years, it's really not that fast, but unrepairable and then given up. I made a note here that Peepee Lulu moonlights as either the cowboy in the Village People or as the lead singer in a Queen tribute band. Take a look at his artwork. Tell me I'm wrong. Go back and look at that and tell me. He's either going to burst into YMCA or can anybody find me? Anyways, some real
Yes.
The artwork of the monster trio and Chopper walking up to Frankie's house.
Oh, isn't it great?
I warned you, this is just going to be all over the place because my notes are out of order. That was some incredible artwork. That really was.
Yeah.
And Chopper looked like he belonged.
Yes,
and
he did.
Not only did he look like he belonged, but in the battle, he was a fully contributing member of that fight team.
Yeah,
there was no point of they had to save him or pull him out of a tight situation. And I thought that was so cool that we see that. In contrast to Usopp, who that whole we'll do the Usopp tale in a little bit, but I mean there's a comparison there. But it's also a huge comparison between that version of Chopper and Chopper the Doctor.
Yeah.
Who's a whiny little turd.
Chopper's attitude towards fighting scales to whoever he's fighting, typically.
Does it?
Yeah.
So he kind of knew he had to step up his game for this one?
No. I mean, kind of the opposite, actually. Well, first off, in that scene, Chopper was mad.
Yeah, oh yes, he was. Yep.
He knew Sanji, Luffy, and Zoro were there, so he was confident, in the people around him. But you look at the Frankie family, Chopper could take on a lot of them by himself and be fine. He's far more confident. When Chopper goes up against someone who's a little more higher level, Chopper gets scared.
Well, okay, so...
And that's to be understood because he's not a Zoro, he's not a Sanji who's like, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep fighting you even if it kills me.
Right.
Chopper has that, he's the animal. It's fight or flight kicks in.
That's an interesting observation.
Like Nami and like Usopp, although I would like to point out that in later sections of the story, when everyone is going toe-to-toe with heavy powerhouses that outclass him, Chopper still puts up and fights. I will not take any Chopper slander, especially in the recent stuff. All right? I'm putting my foot down. All right?
Include your Chopper slander in the comments below.
No, you will not. I will leak your comment. I have the power. I have the YouTube moderator power.
This is the first time you see that level of confidence.
You see that level,
This is the first time.
Yes.
Now, when he is fighting alongside, who was he? He was Mole, the lady, and
it was with Usopp.
Yeah, that was with Usopp.
Yeah,
he was running for his life there.
Yeah,
but so this is the first time we see him here like that. So that's really cool.
Personal. They went after one of the.
Yeah.
Well, they just beaten the snot out of Usopp. But it's still a nice development.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, and he picked. I mean, that was one of those when he was reading in the hotel. He showed me that picture.
Yeah.
He was like, "I love this picture."
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. So. Almost the end of almost every chapter, there is one incredible panel. I mean,
amazing shots.
Talk about, I would love to see the storyboarding behind this. I would love a book that is just the storyboards of One Piece. It would be so good. can Chopper save Iceberg? That was my thought early on when he first got shot.
Oh, yeah,
and then I wondered,
would be able to.
well, and then I wondered, will that earn them a new ship? That was okay. That was my thought. No, wait, I have a whole different thought on the ship. Right.
Yeah.
I have
all these theories.
Yep.
Okay, so it looks like they're giving up the merry-go. Okay, and I knew that was going to happen. They were going to get a new boat. Didn't know when. A little bit surprised it's this soon. But the other theory is this, and I wrote this one down today because I had this one this afternoon. Where is it? Frankie steals 2 million berries and spends it. He goes off and he spends it. When he comes back, he says it's gone, but you never know what he spends it on. And so this afternoon, I just asked, I wonder if he bought a ship. And I wonder if that's the way he settles the score with them. He gives them the ship he bought. That is just my thought. I'm going to look away. I'm going to let these two exchange some, talk behind my back for a little bit.
Damn, he's good, isn't he?
Right.
Damn, he's got some really good predictions. Unfortunately, that one was wrong, but that's a damn good prediction. Damn good prediction.
That does make sense.
Okay, so anyways, that's where I was at with that one. It's wrong. Okay, wrong. Got it. But, it could have been.
It could have been.
It would have been a good one. Would have been a good one. Okay, so where are we at here? Frankie, Kiwi, and Mozu show up. The Square Sisters. I remember them from the videos. I remember that was so weird. Yeah. And I love the fact that Luffy refers to him as Speedo Guy. That's just hysterical. So we get to 340. It's chapter 340, and when I asked the question, what part does Usopp play in saving the Straw Hats? You'd be amazed at my spelling errors in my own notes as I'm speed writing. What does he play in that? So let's deep dive Usopp's development here just a little bit.
Yes, I can't wait.
We've always known.
I'm letting you get your piece. I've been told I need to stop cutting you off, which I apologize profusely for. It is an ADD habit that I blame her for giving to me.
I do it too.
I said that in a comment once, but I have a whole spiel after this, so I want to hear everything.
You want to hear everything?
I want to hear everything. I told you, this is the section of story. If you want to get nitpicky, we can.
Well, you know what? You are always so kind as letting me get my thoughts out, get my notes out, and then so we'll just go with this. Usopp's not confident. Usopp's a coward. Usopp, he shows sparks of being really, really good, but he hasn't developed as a character to the point where he's really strong and confident. And when the last time you and I talked about that, the one comment that you made that stuck with me was that can't happen too early in the arc of the entire series. It's got to come later. So the question is, does this come later? I always knew that there was going to be a parting of ways, just glances at some of the videos that, the anime that she was watching. So now we're watching this. What I don't know is, I don't know where the glimpses that I saw when you were watching the anime, I don't know where they come in any of this at all. Because I would bag out of the room as quickly as I possibly could.
It was this section.
Okay, was it?
Specifically, you told me early on you saw Usopp and Luffy fighting, and then you left the room.
Right.
It was this fight.
Okay. So
just to let you know, that is what you saw.
So we've got Usopp who can't part with the merry-go, and emotionally he's having this extreme reaction, just like everybody else had, except that he's a day late and $1 short on this one.
He's a day late, he's $1 short, and it was a gift from...
Yes.
He has the emotional tie of who gave it to him.
Yes.
They don't.
So anyway, so he loses 2 million berry. He gets kidnapped by the Frankie crew. He loses 2/3 of their take.
Yeah.
He's humiliated.
Yes.
He understands he's, the
reason that it's
gone. He realizes how weak he is compared to the big three. He shows incredible strength in going to the Frankie house and confronting them. And so we get this other side of Usopp where he's like, I need to stand up for myself. And so he goes, and of course he gets annihilated, but he still shows up and goes, but he still doesn't see that side of him as it's developing.
I think I've said this before, but you've got Usopp's character down to a T. The thing about Usopp, what's his dream? His dream is to become a brave warrior of the sea,
yes,
right?
Yes.
He's the only Straw Hat that has accomplished their goal because he has shown it. Because what is bravery? Bravery is not a lack of fear. It's the ability to overcome your fear.
Yes.
And Usopp does it again and again and again and again. And the issue is he doesn't recognize that he has done that. I feel comfortable saying this at this point. Yeah. He hasn't recognized that in himself.
No, he's not.
And he won't recognize that in himself.
For a long time?
Well, pretty much up to the current day. I mean, it gets better, obviously. I told you everything, you know.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, you know, he's already achieved his, by stepping foot on the boat and going out, he started the path to it. And every time he has stood his ground or gone out of his way to protect someone, to help someone, he's already got his dream. He just doesn't recognize it yet.
Yes.
He thinks that it's going to come when he's no longer afraid of things. No, that's what we call a Luffy. You're too stupid. Who's too stupid to be brave? He's just stupid and fearless. No. Usopp can't be that. That's Zoro, who has no concept of, you know, until Mihawk shows up.
So you know, we've got this going on, and I hope if there's a reward at the end of the Usopp arc before this story is over, is a moment where he realizes that. It would be criminal not to.
There's great Usopp moments throughout this arc.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll just let you know.
Okay.
That.
And I can't wait.
I can't wait either.
So
I can't wait.
The question: what part does Usopp serve in helping the Straw Hats? Because you know he's going to, and because there's got to be something that brings them back together. And in the one,
he's either going to love it or he's going to hate it.
There's a
yes.
He is either going to think
to love the middle part. I'm not talking about what brings them back together, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
He's going to love that.
He's either going to love it or he's going to hate it. It's going to be great.
So if the anime show, the one thing that I remember from the anime is him following them from a distance, like they're down here and he's up on a cliff wall or something. It was really weird, but there's like he's in the background. Anyway. This afternoon, yesterday, I made a video. I did not, I'll share it, I'll upload it later. I made a video where I was taking the garbage out. I was like, I'm taking the garbage out. And I'm walking back from taking the garbage out. I was like, wait a minute. Grab the phone, turn it on. Did not yell at myself and say no. You're welcome. And it's just, when Luffy makes peace with himself and returns to the boat, returns to the crew, will he stop calling himself captain and accept Luffy's leadership?
Oh, you mean
pause this?
When Luffy?
So, no, when he makes peace with himself and he accepts his position and he realizes, you know, he's got to come to peace with himself before he can reintegrate with the crew. Will he stop calling himself captain? Because he's always saying, yeah, I'm the captain, and he and Luffy have, you know, who's the captain battle. Will he accept Luffy's leadership and stop referring to himself as the captain?
That would make him have to stop lying altogether.
Not altogether.
Not altogether, but see how hard my job is?
Yes,
you see how hard my job...
You know how many times I have to hit pause in the middle of an episode so that, you know... there's one that I'm specifically...
there is... Okay,
of.
I know where you're getting... I know where you're getting... Are you thinking Dressrosa?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And... I think that's an apples and oranges
Think so?
situation. Yeah, I think it's I think in that instance there was a purpose. Okay. So, well,
but I mean, he's a storyteller.
He is.
And
yes,
so
he is.
I think that's just part of his character. I think he'll always, as far,
So he's talking about, will he stop saying it like to Luffy's face?
Oh, gotcha.
Yes.
Or saying it around Luffy, or saying it
I'll
to...
be honest, I have no idea.
Oh, good.
I
That
can't
makes my
think of-
job easier.
I can't think of examples one way or another.
All right. So in his argument with Luffy while they're fighting, Usopp says, "Frankly, I can't keep up with the monstrous powers you guys possess." And I was wondering, is that the first mention of? Is that what gave birth to the idea of the monster trio?
No, Nami says that you three are monsters at one point. I don't remember.
Is it before this
I
or
think it's
after
before
that? Is it
this.
before this?
Someone put it in a comment a long time ago.
Okay.
But I think it's originally coined by Nami.
By Nami. Okay,
Yeah.
early on.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
like,
have
you
to.
three are monsters.
I'm gonna have to.
Started getting referred to as the monster
right.
trio.
Okay, so I don't think I have too much more at this point on Usopp. His desperate attempt to repair the ship as the typhoon is coming in, and Iguana Luna. What is it?
Aqua
Laguna.
Laguna.
That's
Yeah.
it. And so, what do you have on Usopp? I mean, you've got.
Well, no.
something
I want to
to
point out something else. Okay, so all right, so we have towards the end. We have. Did you read this? You read this section of Rob Lucci interrogating Iceberg,
Mhm. Oh yeah, I thought that was
All right.
great. That whole idea of taking his pulse to.
taking his
Right.
pulse. So the whole thing about Iceberg worked for Tom,
Right.
who had another apprentice, whose name was Cuddy Flam,
Right.
who is
Frankie.
yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I just
he
want.
caught that.
Good. I just wanted to make sure.
Okay,
I
yeah.
figured since it was at the very end of it, but I just wanted to make sure
We had that.
because it's important moving forward.
We had that phone
it's
call.
a special tool that we'll save for
later.
later.
I got it wrong in the phone calls we were talking. I was also absolutely exhausted, and my brain wasn't thinking.
I believe
Right.
it.
All right. So
I believe it.
yeah. So we've got this whole Usopp storyline going. We've got the Nico Robbins storyline going. We've got the crew. They're a crew. They're pirates without a ship.
Yes.
And if they're going to get to Enies Lobby, which is the next train station, they're either going to take a train to Enies Lobby, which would really be embarrassing for a crew of pirates, or they're going to have to pick up a boat here.
So where's the section where it's before Frankie, I believe, whose appearance is just incredible. His first appearance. Did you notice that? Because it's very, very distinctly highlighted. This one right here. Very bottom of this page. All I have to do is flash it.
Yeah, the artwork makes it look like the boat is crying. Okay, but
Yes, it's raining.
up here
Yes.
so
It's intentionally drawn that way, but look at the highlighting of the actual thing. The boat is crying.
okay,
The boat is crying. Not
I didn't-
literally,
right.
but he drew this panel.
I didn't know what to do with it, and so I left it. I just didn't know what to do with it, because there is a certain heartbreak in that. I was wondering if they would take the head with them, and
Well, they basically explain the ship of Thesis concept in the Shipwrights do.
yes,
They
yes.
essentially explain the whole concept of how
Right.
it would never be the same ship, and that they would be the first to realize that it's not the same ship.
Okay.
Man, the second half of this episode is going to go really hard. The second half of this episode is going to go really hard. Okay, so
All right. So look, I've read it. I'm going to have to reread it. I've read this before, but
the concept of the ship of Thesis.
Yeah.
It's a philosophy question.
yeah,
If you take something apart and replace it with new stuff over the course of years and years and years,
Right.
it's the same tool.
right.
All right. Is there anything else you want to dive into?
Okay, so here we go. Let me see. Zoro easily and she starts to. Robin's sweating when she passes the masked person on the street. When he just says, I had to read that one twice to really figure out what was going on. I'm with CP9, I'm heading in, and she immediately starts to sweat. Almost like she didn't know that was coming. She got caught off guard. She was hoping it wouldn't happen. I mean, did she know what she was getting into when she was going to Water 7? There's so many questions there.
There's a lot of great questions, and if I may quote, one of the most iconic comments on any of our videos was, Dad is asking all the right questions. Unfortunately, they cannot be answered without spoiling the story. They cannot be answered.
So,
which was a beautiful comment that I think a lot of people appreciated and agreed with.
I realize I get some things
they know
like
my pain.
completely wrong, like the ship, like Frankie and the 2 million berries. There are things that I just completely get wrong.
There's a lot of stuff that you will also get right. Yeah,
and there's a lot of stuff that I can really sense I'm honing in on. I'll almost be disappointed if some of these things don't come out.
Okay.
I might. But again, there's more information to come. The jumping ability of Kaku. First of all, the square nose. He looks like a robot. I'm not convinced he's a human being. Is he a robot? If he's not, he's drawn like one.
He's not. It's going to be even funnier. I'm going to tell you that.
Okay.
It's going to be hilarious.
The square nose. Khalifa.
No, Frankie's the cyborg.
He's a cyborg. Yeah.
He's a cyborg.
Throws a nice reverse crescent kick against Luffy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. That was good drawing right there. That was good animation. I really enjoyed that. So we get Kakuna's jumping ability and his speed, right? And with that jumping ability and that speed, if there's not a devil fruit involved, what is it? Because that's just not normal human ability. All right, that's my thought. All right.
Okay.
And then so Luffy sees it. Luffy says, I want to do that. We actually see Luffy practicing. And as I mentioned to you and Luffy carrying Nami while crashing to the ground and her screaming was hysterical.
Yes.
Are we seeing Luffy learning the skills of a power-up? That's what I wanted to know. Now, I'm not supposed to know about the power-ups, I know, but I do know that it eventually happens. And so is this the first stage? Is this his next big ability jump? And then the
Don't you hate it when he's right? Don't you hate it when he's right? You know what? I just can't on this one. He's so spot. I'm not going to tell him what the power-up is or when it's coming. Yeah. But he is right. Well, no, he is trying to learn.
If he has to fight Kaku at the end of this story, he's got to be able to match the ability.
And then he's so wrong. Just right one after another. It's just it's emotional whiplash. He'll get one so spot on right, and then he'll just get one completely wrong.
But so many of those.
Yikes!
And theorizing, and it's.
But that means that. But that's the thing. It means that Oda did a good job in the story. That's what he thought.
Yes.
Or
yes.
Or he just whatever.
You know what we need to do? We need to go back through all the episodes, and we need to get just a little counter going. Right and wrong.
I literally had that. I had that thought about 10 minutes ago. I think on the last one.
And all the questions. There you go.
I think on the last one. I think I was like,
yeah.
Okay. But you know what? Fine. You earned it. Yes, he's working towards it. So you're not going to see it coming though.
The panel of Iceberg looking at Usopp and picking his nose was so out of what a total and complete break. He looked like a Beavis and Butthead character.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was strange.
Still a 17-year-old.
I like Zoro counseling Luffy on the burden of command. That's a real good scene.
Mhm.
You know, where he says, "Don't second guess yourself, because
Yep.
if you do, then we can't trust you as
Yep.
as leader." That's a great line.
It is a
Um,
fantastic line. That entire section is. First off, it's hard to read and hard to watch.
Mhm.
It's incredibly that it just them all fighting amongst themselves in that scene on the Mary, and Usopp and Luffy kind of getting at each other, and then Luffy says those words and Sanji immediately.
Oh yeah.
And the
Yes.
beautiful thing is that
Yes.
it was Sanji who immediately,
So don't finish that sentence.
don't you dare. He immediate,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
it wasn't Zoro, it wasn't Nami, it was, you know, I like that Sanji got that moment.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
Sanji got to, no, you don't you dare say that.
And the damage was done.
And the damage
Well-
was already done.
Sanji has the most experience. He grew up on a pirate ship. He grew
On a
up.
restaurant, yeah.
but I mean by pirates.
Yeah. Former pirate, yeah.
Former pirates.
Yeah, no, so he knows he's
the pirate code.
Ironically, he's the only man, aside from like maybe Nami, he's the only one that has the most experience dealing with pirates. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
he knows, or ships in general.
Yeah.
Ironically, now that I think about it, that's interesting. But yeah,
So I mean, Sanji knows.
yeah, no, Sanji knows 100%. You
Yep.
don't do that.
Yep.
Like don't you dare.
Yeah.
No, it's great. What?
Okay.
Are you trying to figure out which one?
No, it's just that the artwork. You know, I'm sitting here. This is the second or third video now. The artwork is it's gorgeous. It's just beautiful. It is so distracting, and I keep looking at this and thinking it's Neptune.
It is Neptune.
Okay, so I'm not wrong. That is.
Yeah,
So I had to finally just pull up my phone and check, because I'm listening to you talk, and I'm listening to you talk. But just like how I got through college, I never make eye contact with my professors, and I'm thinking about something else, and you know, and I did really well too.
So you got some of it from him too.
Yeah, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, apparently.
Oh yeah. I gave homework to my karate students, and they were filling out a sheet of paper in class. And while they were filling it out, some of my ADHD students were just doodling and drawing all over the page, and they're
That's
getting
funny.
the answers they need, and they're drawing all over the page. And like the teacher part of me wanted to be like, "Don't do that," but the Richard part of me said, "That's how I got through college." So I doodled on everything. I figured out, and I think I said this to you in the hotel room. I finally figured out what it was that just disgusts me about some of the animation, and it's Frankie's hairy legs. It's okay.
You said this last time.
Right,
You
Bon
figured it
Clay.
out.
Did I say that? I said it about Bon Clay.
You said it about Bon Clay, and then you said it about.
This whole hairy leg thing.
I think
Yeah.
you said something in either G8 or Long Ring about it. You said it in either G8 or Long Ring about it, and that's when you said it wasn't Bon Clay. I figured it out. It was the hairy legs.
Was
You
it?
said
Did
it.
I
In
say
the, you
yeah.
said it in one of the.
Oh, I
last
had
two
it again
videos,
here
yeah.
because I was watching
So,
it. Right.
Long Ring hasn't been shown yet, so
At the time that we're recording this one, so
Yes.
Long Ring.
Yeah,
is not
Long
up
Ring
yet.
hasn't.
No.
Right. Okay. So, Luffy.
I think it's a
okay.
Speedo,
Luffy.
personally.
Luffy.
This is Speedo.
Luffy hanging under the bridge is hysterical. And so
Mhm.
if you can flash that, but I don't know
Yeah.
what's funnier. Luffy stretched out hanging over the bridge with, you know, Zoro just sitting very casually on his stomach, or Chopper's head leaning over and looking underneath.
yeah.
That is just great comic relief thrown
Oh,
in
yeah.
the middle of an intense battle. I
Oh,
really
yeah.
like that. I couldn't focus on what to start with and where to go, because my mind's been going in a million different directions with this. My notes are all over the place.
Obviously,
This
this
is-
is an intense.
This really
section.
is.
So, and then we'll have to do it. This is gonna be a long video, and so will Enies lobby. So I'll get this out. All right, this is going to be the big thing for Water 7. It's gonna carry over a little bit into Enies lobby, but it's not quite the focus of Enies lobby.
Okay.
For reasons. But here, the thing about Water 7 is that. Let me just get some notes.
Pull your notes up.
Let me get my notes up. Let me just pull some notes up. All right, cool. You were right. Usopp still calls himself captain. You are 100% right about that. That was a note that I took. I love Water 7 as a location in the story. Obviously inspired
Venice on the ocean.
Yeah. Venice on the ocean. He just got to play with drawing cities.
Yes.
Usopp is at his lowest point. A lot of these are very like simplified versions of what you said. Luffy is truly starting to learn what it means to be a captain, and sometimes he's going to have to start making some very, very difficult choices and stick to his guns on them. And it's an important development in Luffy as a character.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
As he learns the weight that a captain bears, the weight of responsibility that is placed upon his shoulders. Usopp is the most hurt by the Mary's condition, not only because it was given to them by Kaya. He's also the guy who's been primarily repairing it this
Yes, he
whole
has.
time.
Yes,
So
he has.
He is so emotionally invested
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he is.
into this ship. He's not in any right state of mind. And Luffy had a very similar reaction. That's his ship. He's the captain. That's
Yes.
his crew. That's his crew's home. That's his home. But eventually Luffy comes around after a break and
I've made up my mind.
he got to vent.
Well, he had his mourning period.
He had his more but
and this is one of the things I like about Luffy's development as a captain, is he's very decisive.
yes.
He makes decisions and he sticks with them, and he doesn't go back and wishy-washy
And this is
doubt himself. He had his mourning period, and then he said, "This is what we need to do. If we want to be able to go to the Grand Line, this is what we need."
You know what he did? He took out his frustration on the Frankie family, and that cleared his head.
Yeah.
That is what happened. He went, he was already frustrated, he was already pissed off, he was already hurt by the loss of Mary. So he goes, and when he hears that his crewmate, he's like, he needed an excuse. He needed an excuse to go unload on some punching bags, and there was just a perfect house full of them for him to just go.
Was that before or after the fight with Usopp?
That was before the fight with Usopp. So it goes. Usopp goes to the Frankie house.
Right.
The rest of the crew goes to the Frankie house.
And then they
beat up the Frankie house. They take Usopp back to the
That's right,
Mary.
because he makes up his
They
mind.
talk.
Right. Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
Well, because the self-control that he showed in that fight with Usopp,
yes,
is the self-control that you see all three, Sanji, Zoro, and Luffy, show when they see no value or purpose in the fight, and they just don't.
Yes.
And Luffy knew that there was nothing that Usopp could do to him. He took a lot.
Break him enough to break his spirit, but don't kill him.
Yes. Yeah, oh yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, and it's sad. It's sad because you also get flashbacks to the good times.
Oh, I know. He weaves those flashbacks in so
Flashbacks.
well.
In the anime, you get sad music.
Yeah.
You get like them happy in the voice acting, which is so good in the Japanese, and you know, it's so good. And he's so sneaky about it too. There's just pictures of them arguing over who gets to sit on Mary's head, and you know, all the memories, and it's so beautifully done, and it's so, you feel how hard it is, you know. And then he has to make the boat cry right as they're about to start fighting. I'm like, really? Okay, so also, I love, you'll appreciate this. You guys will appreciate this, those who are caught up.
Apparently I won't.
You will in about 6 months.
Yeah. So skipping ahead a little bit to the very end is one of Iceberg's lines to Robin that I loved, and is, "The weapons will not bring peace to the world, they will destroy it." And if you know, you know. Water 7 introduces a brand new type of threat, an intangible threat, something the crew hasn't faced yet. And that is the threat of the crew breaking apart. And that it is showing Water 7 is Oda exploring how far do the Straw Hats bend before they break.
Fractures.
Now, there are tangible threats in Water 7. There's CP9, and there's the Frankie family. But those are only in service to the intangible threat of Water 7, and that is the crew splitting. What happens when you lose your crewmates? And not even to something as simple as a straight bullet, a straight arrow, a sinking ship.
Well, but no, we face this when Nami back at Arlong Park. I mean, maybe not as bad, and we're not as invested in the characters and the crew, but...
So when that happened, Luffy... Nami was not a dedicated member of the crew at that point. Nami never positioned herself as a member of the crew. She kept...
She was, but Luffy did.
Luffy did, yes. But now here's the difference.
She didn't until she broke and said, "Help me."
I think
Yes.
the difference being that Luffy was okay with Usopp leaving. He's like, "Fine, you want to leave, leave." You
He's
can
not okay. He's not okay with
mad,
Usopp.
But
No, God, this is gonna be really hard to talk about without. The Straw Hats have faced so many physical threats and come out of it stronger because they have worked as a team. And while yes, we have had some divisive moments within the crew, they had just picked up Sanji. It was just, and so they weren't like a solid. The Straw Hats aren't truly a pirate crew until they leave Arlong Park.
okay,
All right, because Baratier is when Zoro finally puts his pride aside and says, "I will never lose again, and I will make you the Pirate King."
Yeah, he does.
Because when they first meet, when Luffy and Zoro first meet, Zoro says, "I'll sail with you, as long as you don't stand in the way of my dream."
Right.
And Luffy says, "That's fine with me." But once Zoro sees what he'll have to do to achieve his dream, he commits himself to Luffy because he believes that Luffy can get him there.
Right.
That if he sticks with him. So he says, "You know what? Fine. I'll make you the Pirate King, and I will accomplish this at the same
Right.
time." So it's not until after Arlong Park. It's the scene with the barrel. It's the scene with the barrel. That's what it is. That's when the Straw Hats truly become a pirate crew. And that's because up until that point, it's like, okay, him and Han and I don't know, and like, oh, maybe
well, I mean, a lot
this
of
is
them
kind
were,
of a
with the barrel?
but
the scene with the barrel where they all put their foot on the
up.
barrel.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah,
they
yeah,
say,
yeah,
I'm
okay,
going
yeah,
to become,
yeah.
you know,
Right, yep.
you know.
yeah.
But Luffy, I mean, yeah, Zoro is like, "I'm not part of the crew." Nami's, "I'm not part of your crew." Luffy's like, "Yes, you are."
Yeah, he is.
I mean,
But again, they were
not.
not, you know. Luffy, when he's, set on it, he's like pretty set on it, typically. Unless you're the chest guy with the bush head. I can't remember his name.
Kadatsu?
No,
that's Minoru Head.
The guy that was that was the guy in the treasure chest on that one island with the animals.
Oh, the Goat Island.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
so because he did ask him to join the crew too, that was funny. Okay, but no, legit though, because we've had so many arcs of this crew developing and growing together and working together, and then we're starting to see how does the crew handle it when one of their own leaves? Because it wasn't just a situation where Luffy had made the idea that he was a part of the crew, but Usopp had implanted himself in the crew, and everyone else on the crew had accepted him in his role. And more importantly, and the reason I brought it up at the beginning of this, is that the crew had accepted Robin. at this point, and then Robin left. So in the span of a day, they lose the person they just finally accepted fully into the crew, and they lose one of the longest, serving members so far, technically the fourth to join the crew. So they lose 2 members back to back, and they're starting to splinter a little bit. They're starting to crack. You can see the stress forming. You can see where this is becoming like, we have to, because, what's the response? No, I don't believe this. I don't believe this. I don't believe Robin's doing this. I don't believe it, even if I heard the words that you said. She's lying, or we're going to get to the bottom of this. Like, they are starting to, they're a little desperate, because they're like, we can't afford to, lose.
I will agree with you that they're a little desperate.
Oh, they're incredibly desperate.
But
they have no ship. They have no.
I kind of disagree on this one aspect. And
Okay.
As I'm sitting here listening to you, I've got a friend I've known for 55 of my 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
We went through an extended period of time where we didn't talk because of a misunderstanding.
Mm-hmm.
And then we patched everything up.
Mm-hmm.
And we get along very, very well.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of my friend Ron, and all the times as kids we rubbed each other the wrong way, just pissed each other off, and then it was like fine, and you go your separate ways, and a couple weeks later everything's fine again. And that's the way I view this scene with him.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly how I view this. It's family, and families fight, and then families patch it up and come back together. So I disagree a little bit. I understand your thought process on this. It's Nico, Robin, the departure, because you're right. It's a one-sided attachment. They're feeling that one hard.
So they're feeling that one hard. Luffy's crying by the time that he's done fighting Usopp.
Mm-hmm.
Chopper's crying. Zoro's down.
Right, yeah.
Not feeling great. Sanji's not feeling great. Nami's not feeling great. They leave the ship with him. My point being that the fracturing of the crew.
Yes. I
it's an
respect
obstacle that needs to be overcome.
Yes.
And we're starting to see how the crew reacts to being put in that situation.
Yes, I don't disagree with that.
And it will come back to play later.
Okay.
And that is all I'm going to say about that, because I know I'm right about this one.
Well, because you've already read the story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The stress of the situation of losing people,
right,
and having infighting. How can they survive this? It's exasperated by the presence of CP9 and by the presence of the Frankie family. And that's really just what I wanted to point out, is that there's a new
There's a new threat.
There's a new threat at play, and it's not some big bad guy. It's the one thing that probably could take them apart if it was a full-blown operation that someone was trying to plan. Because it's kind of happening by happenstance. But if someone wanted to split the crew apart and fracture them and have them infight amongst each other, that would be the most effective way to get the Straw Hats to disband or to collapse under them.
That was
it's Baron Zemo's plan from Civil War.
I was just about to say that.
I know.
I was about to say that Civil War.
That is literally what is going on here.
So are you suggesting that this is the central theme of this arc?
That's what Oda is doing in this arc. That is it's to add on to your comment about Oda's changing his writing style. He changed it. He changed up what is the threat this time. It's not a big bad. It's not a crocodile who's trying to take over Alabasta. It's not a shark man trying to imprison Nami. It's not a problem that Luffy can just punch his way through. So Oda is doing something new here.
Well, it's got to be further developed as we go deeper in the story. I've got 26 chapters to read to where you said the stopping point is.
I didn't say that this stops at Water 7. No. I just said it's not the focus in Enies lobby.
Okay, I got you. All right.
All right?
I got you. Because I don't see it from this stopping point in the story. I don't see it quite as the threat that you're saying that it is. I can appreciate what you're saying, but I'm going to have to see it develop and play out more. I might have eventually reached that point on my own, or maybe not. I don't know, but
we did stop at 246 instead of the end point of for this part. So we'll come back in probably a week and we'll discuss the back half.
I can only process so much. These books are thick. I had to give myself a break at that point, before we move on. So yeah, all right, there we go. So you're really gonna splice these two together? I thought you were gonna. I thought you were gonna do a part 1 and a part 2.
I'm gonna do a part 1, part 2
together.
Yeah, this is gonna be one big water. It's gonna be a long video.
That is
one big water setting. I guarantee you, Enies lobby is gonna be longer.
Oof. All right.
Post water 7 is gonna be a nice little fun break. I'm gonna tell you that. It's gonna be fun.
All right.
So, and it'll be a well-earned break.
So your thoughts on this whole thing here?
I said them as I went. Wrap up,
Oh, good, because this video is not going to have or this session's not going to have a wrap up.
Okay, so no.
All right.
No, Water 7 is one of probably my second favorite after Dressrosa.
That still amazes me. I think I know why, but man.
Is
it because of that guy right there? Behind you?
That's a big part of it.
Okay.
But I like the change in, I don't know, I just liked the storyline.
Yeah, okay.
So,
all right.
But
it
was
do I need to leave the room
Nope.
and give you 2 moments?
No, it's fun. All right, you going to come back for part 2 of this video?
I don't know. I had thought about it. I didn't know until tonight that it was going to be.
They'll want you back for part 2 of this video.
I'm going to at least want to sit there and watch his reaction when, the next stuff. I'm going to have to be downstairs listening to the Enies Lobby conversation, though, because that is going to be amazing. I'm going to follow you around with the camera.
Oh, man. Yeah. If you by chance get a video of the moment from Enies Lobby,
I will.
That would be the greatest video
I will try to work that. So
okay, one quick question. And I had this, and then we got really, really sidetracked, and then
you're gonna have to skip ahead and figure out where it is,
and tell him to stop before that, so I can be on the couch.
Actually, that would be worth. That would be worth. That would be worth.
Although I think it might put a camera in Dad's face and watch him read.
Yes.
Okay, so you get this picture, and I thought of this while we were talking tonight. We get this picture of Water 7.
It's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. It's a gorgeous picture. But as we were talking, I realized, I was like, top of the city's a fountain, is it? When we were talking about Venice and how the landscape and the artwork, and the big clock tower where that was hiding the bomb in Alabasta. Is this going to become a central focus of the?
It's just pretty.
Just pretty.
Just pretty. It's a good thought process. It's just pretty.
Yeah. Well, okay.
No, there's a bigger.
That's Dressrosa as well.
Another one wrong. Ding.
Ding. But they're fun to listen to your theories.
Well, okay.
Oh man, we're gonna have so many compilations.
Oh yes.
All right, so
so
for us, it's going to be a week and a half. For you, it's going to be
now.
We're back.
All right.
How long has it been since we did that?
A couple weeks.
Couple weeks.
Couple
busy few weeks.
It's been like 10 seconds for them. Couple weeks for us.
And so I've been spending...
Which means the energy level whiplash between what they just saw and where we're at right now must be completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Kind of like slamming into a brick wall at 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. We left off in the middle of a fight.
We did leave off in the middle of a fight.
Rob Lucci, they're in Iceberg's house.
Yep.
We discovered that he ate the cat fruit, turns into a gigantic leopard. Tries to do the one finger death pistol poke through Paulie.
Yes.
Does not succeed in killing him. Does the one finger pistol poke through Luffy. Damages him but doesn't kill him.
Yeah.
I love how Luffy continues to call him Pigeon Guy.
Yep.
That is a whole lot of fun. What do they call it? The Cypher 9 people running on air?
Skywalking.
Skywalking. So we see that all of them can skywalk. Just things that caught my attention as I'm going through the reread on this. Usopp has always known that the ship was done for. The big battle for him in this is accepting it, and letting go, and he's not ready to let go, and that's very, very clear, and everybody can see that it's time to let go, except him.
Yeah, very much,
including Luffy.
Yes,
knows that it's time to let go.
Yes.
I think for me as a reader, the very difficult thing is that the mast, the figurehead on the front of the merry-go is so stinking cute.
The shape? Yeah.
And I keep thinking if they would just cut it off and take it with them as a souvenir, they could lose the rest of the ship and everything.
Exactly what my reaction was when I read that. I was like, they can't. Can they just keep the head? Can they just move it over? Because it's just so adorable.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And there's this emotional attachment to this.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
And yep. I'm not going to spoil.
Well, okay.
By saying that, you're still guiding.
So the other thing, Usopp thought that he saw the incarnation of the merry-go. That's really interesting because they dropped that scene, and I remember I asked you about it, and you dodged it, as appropriately, as you should. And then Frankie explains the Club Bauterman.
Yeah.
I did not research that to see if that was.
I have no idea.
Did you look at it as the Club Bauterman, based in?
It sounds very German.
Yes.
I have not researched that to see if that's an act from folklore. It would not surprise me if it was, or if it was based off of an idea.
Right.
Zoro pulls from everything.
Well, he does pull from, and in doing some research without deep diving stuff, you can see that he pulls from a lot of different sources.
Yeah.
But you're right, that does sound very German. And Usopp compares abandoning the ship to abandoning a dying friend. And,
yes, he does.
I, as the reader, needed to see the cracked hull. I needed to see the cracked hull.
We all did.
So
because they specifically did not show us when all the shipwrights and everyone's saying that this is not salvageable.
Right.
We don't see what it is they're talking about. They just keep saying it's unsalvageable.
Right.
So we see it with Usopp.
Right.
In that moment, which is just, it's so well done.
Makes it so everybody can accept it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
A Club Bauterman or Hobgoblin or Kalfater is a water kobold that assists Frisian, German, or Dutch sailors and fishermen on the North Sea in their duties. Dutch or Belgian tales of Club Bautermen describe them as cave dwellers in mountains who may help out humans who put out offerings of bread and butter, sometimes out in the open.
So he did draw upon and say, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's a little too specific to be.
Of luck, labor, and doom.
Yep, that matches.
That would be good.
Fairy-like being that lives on ships and helps sailors, but also reveals when a ship is doomed to sink. Yes. So there's many different.
Yeah, there's just many different
origins, and that's really cool.
A good omen by sailors.
Well, okay, and then so in the whole what does Oda draw upon? I might as well just jump on this one because I found it so interesting, and it is one of the question corners. Oh, let me see if I can find it here easily, where he's talking about why the train is called Puffing Tom. And there was two things that caught my attention on this. Oh, crap! Where is it?
Yeah.
Lots of notes. Tab number 11. And then, like an idiot, I didn't put tab number 11 in. I did. I wrote tab number 11, and then I skipped tab number 11. I'm kind of hoping I'm smart enough to have done that. Thank you. But you never know with me. Yeah, and it's not. God, I can't believe I
Remind me
screwed that
while
up.
he's looking. The flashbacks that Frankie has. That's in this section of the book, right?
He starts with the flashback to his childhood with Tom
Yeah.
and in the building of the sea train.
Yes.
Yeah, that happens around the time that he's talking with Usopp.
Okay.
So
It's around that section of the story.
Okay. I mean, it makes it. I didn't go back and rewatch it again before we talked about it. So I don't want to say anything, but I'm pretty sure that everything is pre-Enies Lobby
Yes.
as far as. Okay. So I won't spoil it by saying, talking about that flashback and them being up in that work area and stuff.
Nope.
Okay.
So in one of the question corners, Oda talks about how he had to research how to draw a train.
Yeah.
Now, I found that to be fascinating. And you would just assume he's an artist and he can draw anything, that he would have to research how to draw a train, right? And then he wrote that he discovered that the name of the person who invented the train was Thomas. Which of course made me immediately think Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah.
And then he even wrote in his answer to the question that he realized that's where that character came from. So you just, it's kind of interesting from the production standpoint of watching him do all of this research behind the scenes and then incorporate Puffing Tom as actually a hat tip to the creator of the steam engine. It's just really cool.
Yeah.
That one really is. Whether I numbered my notes properly or not, which does not bode well for the rest of the notes on this.
That's funny.
Well, and then here's the other thing. I was like, the cool part, these are volumes 38, 37, 38, 39. And I put it on the side. Oh, crap. Wow. Thank you for grabbing it.
There it is.
This is why we work well together. Oda Sensei, hello. A while ago, I was watching TV and saw some engines called Puffing Billy and Rocket, and it startled me. Is that what you base Puffing Tom and Rocket Man on? And he writes, whoa, there was a problem like that? That is exactly Puffing Billy is the name of the oldest engine in the world. I didn't know that.
Huh.
All right. Rocket is the name of an engine that was famous for its speed a long time ago. Well, they look completely different from the manga engines, but still. By the way, when I was researching how to draw engines, I found out that the name of the guy who designed the world's first steam engine was Thomas. I see, so that's where the Famous Kids program came from, I thought.
It's actually very popular in Japan, from what I've heard. Thomas is.
Not surprised at all. Okay. Note to self, some of the tabs are on the side of the book.
Yep.
Anyway, production side. I just thought that was really interesting. So we find out Cypher 9's looking for the blueprints to the Pluton, the world's most terrible battleship. We get the flashback sequence, young Frankie building battleships. Yokozuna, a sumo frog. That was fun.
I love the sumo
That was
frog.
for me. Okay, and I'm just going to say from here, so either I'm thoroughly confused by what was written here, or like the existence of where these blueprints are. You know, there's misdirection, and there's just complete misdirection going on in this whole thing. Are those blueprints the real blueprints for the Pluton?
The ones that Iceberg had?
Yes.
No.
Okay. and he then, because he says, you know, they say this is the fake. Who the heck has these blueprints? Were they given to Frankie? Was he told to go leave the island
You'll
with
find
them?
out.
Okay, because
find
my
out where
question
they
was, does Yokozuna have them? That was his. See, I had this, and maybe this is too much Zelda, but you know, you'll kill a mini boss in Zelda, and they'll spit up a treasure chest, right? Okay, and one of the mini bosses in oh shoot, what's the one with Midna?
Twilight Princess.
Twilight Princess. One of the mini bosses is a gigantic frog with eyes all over its back, and you kill all the mini frogs, and it spits out the treasure chest. And I just have this picture of Yokozuna spitting out the blueprints for the. Yeah, that's where my imagination goes. So then, you know, as we go through this, I'm still on One Piece. Trust me. Tom built Goldie Roger's ship, and he's being held accountable as an accessory to all of Goldie Roger's crimes.
Mm-hmm.
Back to that original question we're not talking about. He saves himself from execution by proposing the sea train.
The question is, should Tom be considered responsible for
how Goldie Roger
used it, which leads into would Frankie? It's the right question, I think framed wrong, because it all boils down to what does the world government want in this moment?
Well, you know what the world government says they want, and what Sanji points out that they really want, is the next major question of this. What is justice?
What ties,
right.
Well, that's what ties it together is.
So, look,
Is Pluton itself inherently evil, like all the government agents say, or is it their intentions with it evil? Because everyone seems to say that Pluton is this great evil that will bring about the end of the world. And there's no room for discussion with anyone, even the townspeople who talk about it, that Pluton is this great evil that will end the world. But meanwhile, when we look into Frankie's backstory with Tom and everything else, the question that is posed is it though? Is it truly evil, or are people's intentions with it evil? And that ties into Robin and Robin's backstory.
Yes, it does.
And that ties in with the whole thing of, well, if she has the power to resurrect this weapon, can we trust her with it? Can we trust anyone with it? You know, it becomes this full, bigger question of...
Yeah. And Iceberg's position that Frankie bears responsibility for creating these things to begin with, and that he should never have created them, and that's the big bone of contention between Iceberg and Frankie over his hobby as a kid of building these massively powerful weapons.
Yep.
You know, and is he responsible when the government misused them? Because let's face it, Spandam, you know.
Yeah.
That brings the question of what the sacrifices for justice, and I believe it's Rob Lucci who brings up that phrase. You know, are you making sacrifices for justice? Well, is that really justice if you're sacrificing morals and values and ethics and laws in the name of justice?
You remember your questions from way early in this series about what makes a pirate and what does a Jolly Roger mean to people? Here you're now introduced to your next one. What is justice?
Yeah, well, that's a major theme in this entire thing, is what is justice in the middle of this big battle. And those are really important questions.
It's a major theme going forward, as well as you get introduced to even more Marines, because Smoker has his own brand of justice. Aokiji had his own brand of justice. His was lazy justice, but he had had his own brand of it.
At a surface level, and this is just a very surface level, when we first meet Nico Robin, she pretty much leaves the crew alone because they're not her major concern.
Yeah.
Right? Even though they're battling her boss. Kiji initially, I don't have a bone to pick with you guys. I'm going to leave you alone, although that slowly changes.
Yep.
Smoker has this sense of fairness. I don't know if it's justice, but it's fairness. So...
And he does talk about bringing pirates to justice.
Yes, he does.
But he does have this... He seems to have... He knows very confidently what his brand is, at least initially, and then it gets challenged. So he's fair and shows that how he views bringing people to justice is different. Because Smoker still wants to capture them. He still wants to take them in.
Right.
But he knows what they did, so he knows it's unfair to go after them when they're weakened after they just rescued a kingdom.
And
so he's like, and him.
Well,
So
I mean, what
he's
a
going.
jerk he would have been if he had taken him in after they saved him.
So he's doing it. He's doing it on his own terms that are fair.
And he also tells Tashigi.
Tashigi.
Sorry.
Tashigi.
Tashigi.
I'll leave it up to
Sorry.
you and I'll back you with whatever you
Exactly.
I'll leave it up to you. This way I don't have to make the decision.
Yeah, that too.
Well, there might be that in it, but I mean, there's this whole.
But it was also a good learning experience for her.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Develop your understanding
he
of
also
that.
might have known that there was no way she was going to take them in.
Yeah, he probably also did. Yeah.
Take Smoker out of that equation. There was no way she was going to be able to bring them in, and he knew that.
At that point in the story, yeah, you're right. I don't think she could have.
No. Of course she couldn't have. No.
And he knew that.
But
that's an interesting point. I like that. And that hadn't occurred to me when either time I've taken a look at that section.
Big roundabout is that we have all these different ideas that are now combining. Like I said, the writing style kind of shifted. We're now starting to get some of these themes, and we know how it all ties together is something's existence wrong? And at the core of this question is something or someone's existence wrong.
Well, okay,
that's Robin.
That's the next question that comes up in this whole thing, because
this section of story all in one.
If the world government had caught Robin when she was 8, what would they have done with her?
Are you asking that, or is that just like you putting that out there?
I'm both. I mean, go with it either way you want.
There's arguments to be made, and I think.
Okay, so well, I'll tell you
once you see what happens.
What my thought was on this whole thing, and I'm almost afraid to say it based on the reaction of my opening gambit. As I was sitting this morning thinking about this whole thing, and I said, "This is the whole. It's not an apples to apples comparison." I'll say that off the bat, but it's that whole question of if you could go back in time and kill Hitler as a baby, would you? That's a brutal question to ask and to think about. But what would the world government have done with Nico Robin if they had got her when she was 8 years old? And what exactly did she see at O'Hara? Besides, we now know that there was a buster call.
I think.
The whole backstory comes way later.
Yes, I know.
It doesn't come in Enies' lobby.
It comes in Enies' lobby.
Yeah,
But we're not at Enies' lobby. We're still on Water 7.
Yeah, we're still.
We're heading that way.
Right.
Yeah, we're heading that
so
way.
It's like he's finally going to get some answers.
He's going to start getting some answers here real soon.
Yes.
I'm asking all the right questions.
You are asking.
Maybe I'm not using the correct verbiage on a couple of.
No, that's fine.
I'm teasing. Come on. I'm teasing. Good Lord, I'm teasing. So we get the. So it's during Spandam's use of Frankie's battleships on the Justice ship that Rob Lucci says, Mr. Spandau says we must make sacrifices for justice. And the note I asked myself here was, is it justice if laws, morals, and ethics are abandoned? Tom's position is nothing good and bad in building a ship. Be proud of what you built. Mm-hmm. And so he finally admits that he's proud of the ship that he built for Goldie Roger. Yeah. Whatever happened to that ship?
I don't think we actually know, even to this day, what happened to it.
Okay. That's never answered?
Yeah.
Not so far.
Yeah, not so far. The Oro Jackson, something like that.
All right.
Someone will put it in. 'Cause that's not even really a spoiler. It just exists.
I love the frog.
The frog is great.
Frog is great.
Okay, so there is, and so I didn't start putting tabs on anything that I wrote this morning until I got about halfway through this section. I mean, that's really where the book started to, this section of the storyline started to come to life for me. Mm-hmm. So at the very end of volume 37, quote from Oda: "When you buy a CD single, sometimes around the third track there's a song without vocals labeled instrumental. Moms, when you've forgotten to buy ingredients for miso soup, you should tell your families this: tonight's miso soup is an instrumental. During a test, when you can't think of the answer, everyone should just write this next to the empty space. This one is an instrumental." When, in the manga, I've forgotten to draw various things and readers point this out to me, those places were, of course, instrumentals.
That's funny.
So, if I haven't noticed something, if I've forgotten to point out something, if I haven't considered something, it's an instrumental.
I'm going to use that on you.
Oh, I know that.
Oh, that's funny.
That's going to become something we use on each other. Oh, it's an
that's
instrumental.
funny.
Don't forget to do the
Yeah.
laundry.
It's an instrumental.
I did my laundry.
So if he does your laundry, is that a cover?
Oh, very good. I like it.
Nice.
All right.
I find it interesting. Frankie won't forgive, or I'm sorry, Iceberg won't forgive Frankie, but he's in tears saying, "I'm glad you're alive," after he finds out he's been alive after 8 years gone. And forgiveness, being able to forgive people and the lack of being able to forgive people is a constant theme through this story. Mm-hmm. We've seen it on more than one occasion, and forgiveness is so crucial for growth and development. I'm going to be interested to see, does Iceberg ever get to the point of forgiveness? I didn't see it up to this point, unless I missed something. Robin says that she just wants to know history. In her conversation with Iceberg, where she's got him pinned to the floor and she's ready to kill him, and she gets the order not to, and Iceberg says, "You have to take responsibility for your actions. Your knowledge could hurt people. You don't have to have evil intentions to hurt people." And then he makes mention of, the demons of O'Hara, which is our first introduction to that whole concept. And so I immediately realized when we see that picture of the wanted poster of the 8-year-old Nico Robin and Tom's hand is on it, what did he tell them? Because all we see is his hand on it, and he says, "This is my major concern."
Yeah.
What did he tell them? Obviously, he knew a whole lot more than what the readers have learned about. Mm-hmm. So we find out Robbins gives into the world government to save the Straw Hats from a buster call. I find it interesting that the Straw Hats have the world leaders so frightened. And we kind of get the first hint of that in the Akiji conversation in Long Ring Long Land, when he makes reference to the D's, and makes reference to him being like his grandfather. Mm-hmm. Because as we've followed the journey up to this point, what have they done that's really threatened the world leaders? Taking out Crocodile was pretty big. Mm-hmm. But
aside from that, what have they done?
They've risen to the top very quickly.
They're nowhere near the top. I'm going to tell you that right now.
But it seems up to this point in the story, they're rising very fast.
They've gotten their attention.
Oh yeah.
They've definitely gotten their attention as.
And it's honestly, that's, I think, because of what Aokiji said, it's the first layer of what we are starting to see, or what we have started to see since Wano. Like, Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
So,
back then. Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
it's I know the whole world is like, we know something Dad doesn't know. Yeah, I get it.
Remember that no matter what, you're always behind us.
I know that.
In your journey. So no matter how far you get,
I'm behind everybody watching, and they know it, and they let me know it in the comments too, which are always very kind and very amusing. But you never fail to let me know, especially when I've missed the mark. That's
Well,
great.
because a lot of stuff does make sense in post.
Yes,
Like that just occurred to me, rereading it. That why do the Straw Hats have the attention, and then you get later and you realize, okay, all right,
okay.
this makes more sense now.
But then if they're just like scratching the surface of Rising quickly,
Yes, they are.
do they justify a Buster Call? What have they done up to this point that justifies a Buster Call?
So what are they?
Or is it just the existence of Robin on their crew that justifies the Buster Call?
At this point, I think that's I think that's implied to be the case.
Okay. All right.
That's a dirty trick they're pulling to get her to.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, it is.
basically
Yeah.
emotionally blackmailing her.
Yeah.
So
I believe
they're basically pulling a dirty trick.
I have spent this entire second read-through of the second half of Water 7 questioning my comment that Robin has to decide if she's a member of the crew or not. I may have missed the mark on that.
Yeah.
Because she's doing so much to protect them. Mm-hmm. And short of getting choked up on camera, which I sometimes do in this story. Pardon?
and said he's going to be a mess.
Oh yeah, next video. Gonna be messy one.
So, she says, I found companions who believe in me. Mm-hmm. And then, in me,
Yeah.
right, is repeated. The life I once threw away, the heart I can't even read this.
Yeah.
The dreams I thought were dead. My eyes are watering so much I can't read. They bring these back to me every time. And she claims she doesn't care what happens to the world, but she cares very much what happens to the crew.
Yeah.
All right. That's the whole exchange with Iceberg.
Yes.
And then Iceberg claims the Straw Hats are defeated shortly thereafter when Nami breaks into the room, and Nami says, defeated, we're just getting started.
Yep.
And so there's the thing that I noticed about that line was it's the first time that I recall Nami truly acknowledging the power that they have. That she truly understands what they're capable of and what they're not capable of. They've just been kind of running around crazy at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Before you go on, I have a question. Is at this point in the story, Luffy and Zoro stuck?
They get stuck.
Yes. Yeah, they're stuck.
Yes.
Yeah, oh yeah, they're stuck.
I think
They're
it's one of my favorite
Oh, it's so
things about
funny.
it.
It's
I just
hysterical.
feel myself laughing.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
Luffy,
exactly.
again!
Yeah.
The artwork of scrunched face Luffy.
Zoro upside down in the chimney.
Yeah,
and
no,
all
yeah.
that.
So calmly saying, huh.
And
Maybe
so casually just Samson's the buildings and just.
okay, so my thought is, I realize that he's not Mr. Fantastic. We've covered that before, but it just seems to me that he would have been able to make himself thinner and stretch higher and just pull himself out of it.
You would think that'd be the simple answer, but it's Luffy. I don't think it occurred to him that he could do that.
Probably not, or it just gave Oda the opportunity to show this power development of the push.
And specifically, Nami hints at it. She's like, when Iceberg explains to her everything about Robin, Nami says, "Oh, good. Now that they'll know that,
Yes.
she's, this is the situation, they'll fight even more ferociously because otherwise they had given up hope." So,
I mean, if Luffy and Zoro weren't stuck, that fight would have been over much quicker. I mean,
Debatable. Considering what happens later.
Okay.
I think that's a little debatable.
Do I need to leave the room?
No.
You're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
So this was about the point in the story where I really started throwing tabs into the book to try and catch things. And one thing that caught my attention, the artwork for Kaku, his eyes are always wide open and there's almost no expression, which is why earlier in this video I had asked, is he a robot? Is he an android of some sort? Because of the way he's drawn. But
he wasn't the android or the robot.
No. Khalifa says our mission is almost complete, isn't it? And Rabalucci says keep careless comments like that to yourself until we arrive, idiot. And it's this expression on Kaku's face right here that makes me wonder that comment hit him hard. So the question is, does that come back later in this story? There's a whole panel devoted to his expression. And he's so hard to read. So I'm wondering, does this come back? Does this somehow, are we going to see Kaku turn against Rabalucci in any way? Big or small? Because he's kind of a blank slate, but there's focus on that.
Yeah.
Robin is sitting on the train, and she is going through the memory of joining the crew, of asking to be able to be on the crew. And then right here, this panel, and just a hint of a smile, right? Which again made me say, okay, maybe I misread that comment about Robin earlier. Sanji comes into his own in this train sequence that and I'll just say it now real quick. All of the best train fight sequences ever are James Bond.
Okay.
With the exception maybe of Bullet Train. Bullet Train cracked that. Cracked that. So as I'm watching Sanji move through the train, car by car, systematically dismantling everything, I'm like, this is a real cool James Bond moment. Okay, so I got that out. But they're in the middle of the fight, and he's in the car with all of the henchmen in the black suits with the black fedoras. I saw that kick. He's not just a civilian. He must be a person of interest. And Sanji says, if you say that to my face, I might just blush.
Yeah.
I thought that was a hysterical moment. All right. So I'm thinking about Sanji this morning, and I'm thinking he's still kind of a bit of an enigma. In that he's a superb chef. We know that he feeds anyone who's hungry, regardless of who they are or what they've done, because he believes in that. He's a supreme fighter. He's strong. He's confident, and he works alone very well. I mean, in this whole lead up to him following Robin and meeting the train and just getting on the train and not waiting for captain's orders and just doing this by himself, there's this whole level of Sanji that we haven't seen before. And it's a very interesting development in his character. But we're not getting a backstory for it because I already got his backstory. So this is who he is, but we're still learning a lot about who he is. Because then he does say later that he would defy his captain's orders if the captain ordered him not to pursue Robin. That's a really big development. And the artwork on Sanji is really cool because the artwork on Sanji is far more mature and it's showing a darker side to his character, and it's not that god awful heart eyes, I'm in love stuff. Yeah. Which I get is just comic relief, but it really just annoys the piss out of me. Yeah. Anyway, so the train fight is absolutely fantastic. A lot about it. Back on the island, because the train has departed, Nami orders meat and wine for Luffy and Zoro's refueling mission, which I thought was absolutely hysterical.
Yep.
And I just...
Yep.
The artwork has Zoro on his knees with an armload of bottles. There must be, 15 bottles of wine that he's going to drink to refuel while Luffy slams meat down and then loads the pockets of his pants, complaining that the pockets are not large enough to hold all the meat.
Yeah.
Nami runs towards the Aqua Laguna wave to save Luffy and Zoro. So there's this level of courage that you see in her that counterbalance. I mean, she just goes from being courageous at some moments and weak at others that, I don't know, it's just something I'm going to have to accept. That's the way it is. I started thinking about the sword a lot, and it was actually tab number 4 here, and it's Chopper that brings the sword to Zoro when he's upside down in the chimney, and that's where he talks about there's something off about that sword, and so I went and I dug back through the volumes until I found Logtown, and reread the whole section of let me get the name right, Tashigi, in the sword store when they buy this, and it's the cursed sword. I thought it interesting that he used the cursed sword to bust out of the chimney. Not that he had the room to swing it to cleave a building in half, but I guess that's what you get when you have a cursed sword.
Don't question it. It's Zoro. Don't question it.
There's this thing. So, but so there's this whole Zoro uses Katetsu the Third, which is a fine grade sword worth 1,000,000 berries, but it's bewitched. He carries the Wadu Ichimonji, the straight road of peace, worth 10,000,000 berries. It's one of the great 21. But there was a Katetsu 2, an excellent grade sword, and a Katetsu 1, a supreme grade sword. And then it says all 3 are cursed. Boy, I'd love to find out why. That would be a fun little story to read if we could find out why they were cursed. But yeah, I actually went back and researched that.
Nice.
All right. Chopper hugging Zoro's face during the wave escape was hysterical. We go from this big, strong guy standing on a chimney handing a sword to this tiny little reindeer squeezing his face while they're running. I thought that was great.
It's a raccoon dog.
Yeah, I know. The amount of times he's called raccoon is hysterical. He's a raccoon!
I'm right there!
It reminds me of every time Rocket's called a raccoon and he gets angry.
Yeah.
So, Nami says Enies lobby is a court in name only. And I immediately thought, oh, government black ops site. Yeah. It's where they go do their dirty work. They introduce Rocket Man, an uncontrollable train, and Luffy's reaction is typical Luffy.
Yeah.
Cool! So excited about the idea. If the sea train can run on water until it picks up tracks, why does it need tracks at all? I'm just wondering.
No question. Don't question.
Just wondering.
Don't question.
It's instrumental.
It's an... Oh, goodness.
Oh, boy.
Luffy should not have been able to punch a hole through the ocean. I am just saying. The minute his fist touched the ocean, he should have gone weak. Don't tell me that's an instrumental. That's just... We're supposed to...
Just let them be cool, man.
Yeah.
Just let them be cool.
I'd say there's more than one place in One Piece where physics doesn't really apply.
And the rules don't... Yeah, and
Well,
those rules
yeah,
don't.
it's not physics.
go with it.
It's
Just enjoy it.
It's the rules of... Yeah, all right. What did I write on tab number 5 here? I put a tab number 5 on here, and then I didn't write what it was about. Oh yeah, the comment about the Straw Hats. They're scary if you make them your enemies, but when they're your allies, there's nobody more reliable.
Yeah.
Who says it?
Kokoro, the hag.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, and she figures that out about him pretty quickly,
Yeah,
you know.
that's the grandma.
That's the
like
grandma, yeah.
I do. She's a fun character.
Well, and they asked her if she was related to the frog, too.
Yeah.
That was kind of funny. Oh yeah, so there's this whole page.
What's cooler?
Well, yeah. So Sanji's on the train. He's got the snail transponder, and he finally gets in touch with Luffy. Mm-hmm. And he says, "Nami just filled me in on the situation. I heard everything. Is that right?" Then he just says, "Go ahead, tear things up." I thought that was really cool. I mean, just that reaction. But there's that whole captain's orders. Just go do this, right? Which I thought was kind of interesting because I don't think we see him giving orders like that, especially in the heat of the moment, all that often.
No, we're starting.
Yeah, this might be the first time.
This is starting to become the first of seeing Luffy.
Well, and that's that whole thing, that the whole Sanji, counseling Luffy on the Usopp, is don't question yourself. You're the captain. Just do it. And so we're starting to see that maturity.
Because he also says Zoro. And in the most casual way, Zoro, it's in our way. Cut it.
Yeah.
To the train cars.
Yes.
And then Zoro's just like, all right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're getting to that, and that is really cool. Did you notice when he cuts it later on in the story? You see 4 halves floating with all the people, right? And it's like Oda is really committed to not killing people. He's, nothing sinks in the middle of a typhoon. Zoro yells, "Luffy, don't be reckless. Make him wait until we catch up." And they have that whole, back and forth on that. And Luffy looks at Zoro and says, "If it were you and we tried to stop you, would it work?
Yeah.
Would you stop?"
Yeah.
And then sounds like you understand the situation. We get a little back and forth. But then Sanji says, and I'm going to look at the power in this artwork right here. And you're going to have to flash this up on the screen.
100%.
Okay.
I won't hold back.
Right. He says, even if my captain ordered me to, I won't hold back. That's huge Sanji character development. I really like it. So, yeah, and then that's why I wrote what's cooler in my notes. What's cooler? The fact that Luffy said, go tear things up, or that Sanji said, I was going to do it whether you gave me permission or not. That's huge,
Well, and then it's also that artwork that you love so much it's the man hands, both of them.
Yes,
that's
most
why
definitely.
it stood out is because Luffy is drawn straight, serious, fierce.
And then later,
and then Sanji, I mean, that's just a great drawing of Sanji. So
yes, it is.
Yeah,
it's a great. I call it camera angle.
Yeah,
that
fantastic camera angle.
Yeah, looking up. I mean, all of it. It is so good. In the middle of all of this heated battle, and this is more towards the end of the story, when Luffy springs himself from the train and he gets on Enies lobby and he grabs that flagpole and he looks around, he's a little kid again with a face going, this is so cool.
Yep.
So the back and forth on that is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So we move forward a little bit, things that captured my attention. Usopp now finally admits to his shame. He really talks about how ashamed he is of his behavior, of the situation he got himself in, and the whole bit. And what is his solution? His solution is the Sniper King, which...
I had been.
What are you talking about? Sogeking is a whole new character. What are you talking about? Usopp left the story, Dad. Sogeking replaced him. What are you talking about?
Island.
Well, and then the whole thing.
It's too bad Sogeking doesn't stick around. He was a great addition to the crew. I think he should have.
I kept waiting for him because I was expecting him to come down laughing reading this. And I'm like, have you gotten to this point? He's like, oh yeah, I saw Sniper King. I'm like, oh my god, it's so funny.
Well, it is. I had to. The first time we were going through this, I was just allowing myself to ride this story.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really just stop and think about it, but it was, when did I get to this? I got to this yesterday or today where I went back through it and the song, I would love, I would love to hear the song for that.
It's in the anime.
Is it? Okay.
You gotta pick it up on the anime and watch it
All right.
because it is so fun.
This whole
really
song,
is.
I was born on Sniper Island, I hit my target to 100% of the time, la-dee-dee, the whole bit.
Yeah.
But he's sitting on the train talking with Frankie and Sanji. Don't you two have any questions for me since we've never met?
Yeah.
Like where Sniper Island is? And they keep talking about the battle and he says, the answer is it's in your heart.
Yeah. And then he does the same thing but with Luffy and Chopper.
And Luffy and Chopper buy it. That's so funny. Chopper standing there saying, can I have your autograph? You two are idiots. How can you be so smart and be such idiots at the same time? Yeah, that was a tremendous amount of fun. Detaching two train cars is brilliant. I loved Hattori having a matching feather boa jacket to Rob Lucci. That was such a great little touch. The whole section on ramen kung fu is a perfect tension breaker. It's hysterical, but it does serve just kind of a little bit of a purpose in that it gives. Why did I note that? Why did I note that? All right, it's just another Robin complaining about the Straw Hats and saying they'll never understand. Sanji's battle policy. Well, so she comments on you're all kick, right? Without your kicks, you're nothing. Is Wanzi a man or a woman?
I have no idea.
Dude, I have no idea.
I have no idea.
He beats her pretty. And then she complains about her identity being changed. He does. He kicks her in the face until she's drawn to be pretty. And then complains about...
It's supposed to be a dude? I genuinely have no idea.
In battle, it's my policy not to use either hands or cooking knives, both of which are sacred to cooks. However, since this is a kitchen and I'm up against your ingredients, things are different.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was absolutely hysterical that he beats, first of all, the absurdity of ramen kung fu with slicing her to pieces. It was just fun. It was a great tension breaker in the middle of it. Castlegate, ridiculous, silly, and fun. What did I write that? Oh, yeah, that's the slicing of the train in half.
Yep.
That was just fun. That was just silly. It was fun.
Yep.
It's one of those things that you just, go through.
You skip 9.
No, I decided not to cover it.
not to
Just
cover
real quick,
Okay.
decided not to cover. Captain T-Bone, Ship Slasher, reminds me of Kobe. This is an old man who's idealistic. And I found that very, very interesting. And yeah, of course, that's the second time I wrote a note and then didn't actually put the tab on for it. But he's
It's not on the site. 16, 17.
Yeah. So no, it's not. There's no 13 in my notes here. Anyways, Ship Slasher, he's so sincere.
Yeah.
He's a Marine that really believes in protecting people and doing right and serving people. And of course, he looks like a skeleton.
Yeah. Scary face.
Yeah,
Big heart.
but scary face, big heart, and he's trying to do the right thing. But unfortunately, he meets an up and coming Zoro.
Yeah.
Who takes him down.
Easily.
Yeah, that
Very
is,
easily.
Wanzi calls Robin a twisted devil. Just adding to the lore of the backstory of what we're going to find out. What I wrote here. Sanji kicks Wanzi's face into generic pretty, and then Wanzi wants his or her individuality back.
Yeah.
Just thought that's an interesting commentary on beauty and identity.
Yeah.
She becomes generically pretty. But in kind of a plastic, superficial, model-y way. And then Wanzi complains about their wanting their old look back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just something that caught my attention.
Yeah.
And then what was that? I wrote Sanji's artwork at the. Oh yeah, that was another.
Surgery shot.
Yeah.
That's he called that out, plastic surgery shot, and then more of the great Sanji battle artwork at the bottom of the page. I mean, Oda really gave Sanji his moment on this train fighting.
Yeah.
Sanji watches CP9 and asks the question, these guys are the protectors of justice. Hard to tell who the bad guys are, huh? Right after Rob Lucci, and I'm going to use air quotes, kills Nero for being a useless work in progress. Not going to make that count right there. You read it? I'm not going to say it. I'll tell you off camera. So the Sanji artwork is fantastic, and then the battle where he's being criticized for being impatient, and he says, "My parents raised me wrong." I just thought that was a great line.
Let me see that. Sanji says that?
Yeah, Sanji says that. It's in a conversation with Rob Lucci when he gets to that car. Why? What?
Don't worry about it.
Nothing.
Okay.
You'll find out eventually.
Oh, okay. Well, at least I picked up on something
Just
important.
remember that.
Well, I've got the notebook. I always go back and read things.
Yeah.
We covered that. Sniper King snatches Robin. Great bravery moment for Usopp. We've had the conversation about when does he finally realize that he's braver than he gives himself credit for. This is just another one of those moments that, goes into that. I thought it was fantastic. Sanji's kick almost causes Bluno to lose his iron body, and Kaku notices it.
Yeah.
He notices it. He
does.
sees it.
Yeah.
Is it just... Kaku's such an intriguing character because there's... In that blank face, there's more going on. He sees a lot. And it's on purpose. It wouldn't be highlighted, but look at the look on his face. This is the first time where we see a look, or one of the few times, I should say.
Yeah.
We see a look on his face where he's bothered by this.
Yeah.
This is concern.
Yeah.
Where he's normally just very stone-faced as he goes through everything. So I thought that was a very interesting moment. Robin puts Sniper King in the neck snap chokehold that she's known for.
Mm-hmm.
That one caused me in the reading of this to stop and say, she's not going to. I mean, that one gave me a moment of forgetting that Usopp survives all of this in the crew gets back together. Okay. That's how good the story was flowing at that point. On the first read, I went, oh my God, no. Before, right? That was just going for the ride.
Yeah.
So, kudos to Oda. He had me in that moment. Absolutely had me.
Wow.
There's the whole conversation here. We've got Robin and Usopp. Bluno has created the door in the atmosphere. He's gone through to the second car. Who did he finger pistol? He finger pistoled Usopp.
Yeah.
To come back from that strong. I mean, there's far more strength there, but it's either that or the finger pistol isn't all that great because Paulie has survived it, and Usopp has survived it, and
Who does the finger pistol?
Luffy,
Bluno.
Bluno. You know, there's a lot of people who survived the finger pistol. But how good is this thing? It's a hole in your body. Slide a tampon in and go. Just, you know, blot the blot the bleeding and move on.
You know that doesn't work, right?
I'm just saying. It just crossed my mind. But Sniper King, it's all right, Robin. You're all right. You're
I know a thing or two about pecking holes in people.
Yes, I know you do. I know you do. You're still hiding something, aren't you? That's okay. Big line there.
Very big.
And it's coming from Usopp.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who is a liar. Someone who
Knows a bit
thing about lying.
Stuff up and lying.
Yes.
About hiding stuff and
Yes.
not telling the whole truth.
Yes, which is something we've actually talked about a little bit before.
We've seen it before.
We have.
Yeah, we're seeing it again.
Right? And he says, but pirates can't leave their crew without the captain's permission. And that's a huge line.
Mm-hmm.
That is a gigantic line. But that also speaks to, in his heart, he's still a member of the crew. He's going through all of these struggles in this whole emotional roller coaster, but if in his heart he wasn't still a member of the crew, he wouldn't be at this point in the story. He would have walked away a long time ago.
Yep.
But that line just reveals a ton about Usopp.
Yes, it does.
And then he says,
have faith in, and that is a beautiful double spread.
Yes, it
is a beautiful double spread because we have. You also get this great mirror of their sweat on Robin. And she's nervous. You've got the eye showing shock. You've got his eye completely covered, but he's bleeding. You see even though he's the one wearing a mask, you know what's going on Usopp's face, so you don't need to. It's just beautiful artwork.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Robin is the one
so the big question
actually
is,
trying to hide.
Oda, how many variations of this picture did you go through before you settled on this one?
Right.
I would love to know that. I would love to see what went onto the cutting room floor. We find out Robin was on O'Hara, the only survivor of a Buster call. Sanji asks the question, is there no limit to your depravity? And Bueno says it's all in, or Bluno rather. I'm calling him Bueno. I don't know why.
Bueno.
Bluno. It's all in the name of justice. We get this whole recurring conversation of what are you willing to sacrifice in the name of justice? We end up getting the Frankie Robin conversation. Just being isn't a crime. That whole question of is Robin's existence, a crime in and of itself, and he answers no, which also goes back to the building of the battleships, which Tom told him, be proud of what you build.
It's the perfect person to have that conversation with Robin.
Oh, yes. And Oda, as a writer, does this incredible job of putting all the right people with the right backstories in the right place at the right time.
Yes, he does.
These things don't happen by chance. I guess the curiosity
there is no coincidence in writing.
Not good writing, no.
Yeah, not in good writing. There is no such thing as coincidence,
right?
That sort of thing. And even if it's a retroactive addition to a story, nothing is ever coincidence.
And it makes me wonder how far. I would just love to figure out his writing process in this.
Yeah.
How much was pre-planned to that level of detail, and how much came about as he was flowing through the story? That's really the big question I have. But Luffy saying, "I've got a move I want to try out," and then entering.
I knew you'd pick that one.
And he's like, "Oh, that's just fun," because that was him just being gleeful for a moment and being like a little kid.
Yeah.
But that brings us to the end of 376, and you told me to read through 375. That's the end of the Water 7 section. They've just landed on
Enies Lobby.
And, I knew early on, and I don't know if I said this earlier, I knew early on this was going to be a rescue operation on Enies Lobby. And now we just see where that whole thing plays out. Enies Lobby's got to be one heck of a battle.
So remember what I said in the first half of this video?
Haven't forgotten it.
Yes.
It lives rent-free in my head.
You are about to... we have an entire arc that is the battle sequence.
I believe it.
It's...
How painful was the enemy?
Oh, the enemy is very painful. I mean, okay, so when the moments hit...
battles.
There are certain battles that are just long. The anime also adds in that entire section where the Straw Hats are lined up and you get every single one of them goes to, that section, which is just painful to get through because it just adds so many extra episodes.
Yeah.
It's like, nope, no thank you, we didn't need this. But when the anime works, it works well.
Mm-hmm.
But
there's certain parts that you want to go back and watch.
Yeah, there's going to be parts you're going to want to go back and watch because they're great and they're really well done.
Yes.
Yeah.
So after you've read, we'll go back and we'll watch certain parts. But yeah, there's times that I just can't watch the battle.
But yeah,
Right.
It's a very
Luffy's
good.
dead again.
It's a very good read. It's a very good read.
Okay,
So
that's good.
No, it's hard to it's great to talk about and hard to talk about because so much of this is just laying foundation for what comes in the Enies Lobby section.
Right.
So I know Post Water 7 is going to be the easiest video of our lives just because it's going to be another Jaya. It's going to be so easy because Post Water 7 has so much going on that's just all great.
Okay.
But Water 7, there's so much. There's world building. There's stuff. There's seeds getting planted. There's, we're getting a huge team up out of Water 7. The Frankie family is coming to help. The Shipwrights are coming to help. I love the Shipwrights.
They have that whole moment where the three of them put their hands in and they agree to work together.
There's a really funny scene where Polly is like, "You shameless woman, how could you change in front of everyone?"
Oh, yeah.
And then all three are there going... It's like...
He's a bit of a prude, Polly. That whole cover yourself goes on and on and on through the entire thing.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that scene as well, where Zoro's like, "Oh, when did you upgrade your stick to Nami?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, Usopp upgraded it. I guess it was the last thing he did before he."
Yeah,
and then that's
and he's like, "Don't you two get down!
Stop!" There's so much great character moments in this because I talked about this in the first video. This is where the Straw Hats' limits are starting to get tested and what happens when you start to break them as a group. What happens when you start to tear them apart? And we saw what happened. They were on the back foot. They were on the they were kind of losing themselves
a little bit. Yep.
Until they finally get the information, the key piece of information they needed, which was that Robin was she didn't leave them. It wasn't them. It wasn't them.
Right.
They didn't drive her away. Or she's not a bad person. They weren't tricked. Their faith wasn't misplaced. All that.
Right.
They're like, now our friend needs our help, and then it's just a revenge tour from there. They're like, hey, we're gonna go get her back. Let's go.
That's right.
And then they're firing on all cylinders. They're all working together.
When they have purpose and direction, they go.
They have a common goal.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they unified behind that.
Yes.
Now, if they can only get to the point where they can do that behind Luffy's command.
Well, I think that's what this is.
Luffy's
This is
coming
where it's,
into his own.
yeah, this is
he's
coming
he's
together.
growing as a captain, and
This is
he's being very decisive. And
Yep. He's starting to
You know,
accept
yes,
his role as a
it's-
captain.
and they're falling behind him, where before it was kind of going along. You know.
Well, and this goes right back, and I asked this question earlier in this video, which is when Usopp eventually rejoins the crew that we know he's going to, will he stop referring to himself as the captain?
That is a fantastic question.
Right? And that's one that I'm looking forward to seeing the answer to, because I can see him doing it for humor purposes, but he was kind of relentless with that, and it needs to stop. He's not going to regain his status in the crew if he doesn't accept his place in the crew.
This is very true.
So there's that, and then there's the broader question that we've spoken about before, which you've assured me, and we've talked about why it has to come later in the series, is that character arc development of Usopp learning who he is and accepting who he is.
Yeah.
With his strengths and his weaknesses.
I think it's so interesting because you go through character by character, and we haven't seen it yet with several of them. But we saw it with Nami, where she was at her absolute lowest and asked for help.
Mhm.
Now,
Yep.
and there's a couple more coming, and Usopp's, got to get to that point. It's like you got to get to the bottom before you can come back up.
Yes.
So,
You have to be broken.
Yep.
Yes.
hit rock bottom.
Yes.
But yeah, so I mean, we're getting all these different ideas that are starting to get placed. What happens to the crew when they're split? What happens when the crew has a goal to rally around?
Yes.
Is someone's existence by itself a sin?
That's a huge question.
That's a huge question. It's also a question that comes back up later
Okay.
as well. Like everything that is, I'm realizing where 90% of the setup for this comes back.
Mm-hmm. You look at me like I have any memory.
I'll tell you off. Like
Because then I'll remember it when I'll be, oh yeah. But no, that's fine.
I'll be in the other room when that conversation
Yeah.
happens.
Anyway, so it all comes. This is setting up seeds that are going to come in a few hundred chapters, a couple hundred chapters, I think, is when we're gonna. These questions are going to be revisited.
This notebook is going to become gold. This is my One Piece brain.
Yeah.
that I'm going to have to refer
So
to.
This is going to be a lot of fun as we go. There's just so much, but yeah, of course we gotta get through Enies Lobby, and there's so much that happens in Enies Lobby, and this gets expanded upon. My question: what are your thoughts on Frankie as a character? And
I want to find out why Frankie's parents orphaned him. That is so important to the development of Frankie. He was abandoned, he says it, by his parents at a young age. He's adopted by Tom. We see the entire backstory with Tom. We see all of the pain that he's gone through.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got some serious abandonment issues. He's a roughly a 35-year-old man who's turned himself into a Frankie centaur.
Yeah. Oh, Frankie.
That was hysterical. That whole thing was hysterical.
So good.
Yeah. Who has a little bit of a peacock in his character. He likes to, show off. He's
super.
He's like, look at me. Somebody give me affirmation. That's all. Somebody give me affirmation. He's like all of Oda's really interesting characters. He's really damaged, But there's still a part of me that thinks Tom is alive in Enies Lobby.
Okay.
I have no reason to believe that Tom has been executed.
Okay.
I'm expecting a reunion. I'm expecting an answer to what are the real blueprints and where are they, and have they successfully been hidden? those things need to be answered. And Enies Lobby, or the wrap up to Enies Lobby, is going to give the answers to those. And so Frankie's character is it's not a gray area, but the jury is still out, because clearly he's horrified by what was done with his battleships. Here's it. Imagine, this creative kid who I suspect is misunderstood. I'm going to guess that his parents didn't know how to raise him. That they just didn't know what to do with him, because he was probably doing all that stuff at a very young age. Maybe not building battleships, but probably just uncontrollable. And so, rather than Tom is the first person who supported him and harnessed his attentions and focused him and sent him on the way. And then he gets that yanked out of him. He sees the horror of what his creations were done when he's just a kid having fun building stuff. So that my heart goes to the characters. I hate when the story does this too.
We all do.
My heart goes to the damaged characters.
Yeah.
And so we've gotten past the bravado. We've gotten past, right? For doing this to me. So yeah, Frankie's one of those characters that I kind of like him, but I want to see where everything's going to go. You do this to me.
It's okay, the next one's going to be worse.
Enies Lobby to the bowling alley.
No.
Do not bring. Jeez.
God.
Do not.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Don't read that arc in public. Let's just put it that way. Don't read that arc in public.
So you get to go home and start digging in.
Yeah,
and that's going to be. You thought this was a page turner.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. You're gonna fly through Enies Lobby. This is going to be great.
Before we leave, give me the chapter parameters. It's like 376 to something. But
I think it's noticeable where you should stop.
There will be a very noticeable where you should stop, but it's very much longer than Water 7. So you
is it really?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So but it's I love Frankie. I love Frankie's character.
Frankie's like that catch-all. It's like, hey, we need something that can, do this. Well, Frankie can pull that out because Frankie's a cyborg and he has one in his arm.
Yeah. What did you think of his refrigerator stomach for the
cola? The refrigerator stomach for the cola was hysterical. It's another example of Oda just putting silliness in the middle of tension. I had some problems with the artwork because when he first gets on that abandoned ship after he loses the sumo match with the train, I thought he had no arms.
He did. I'm pretty sure he had no arms.
Well, then when I took a look at it, it looked like maybe that was just they're just like really close to his body and damaged and hanging. But you can't rebuild yourself with no arms unless he had someone help him.
You also can't fight with a sword in your mouth, and yet Zoro does anyway.
Well, okay,
Don't question it. Don't question it.
Right up on the edge of the suspension of disbelief. But I mean, we could sit and we could stare at that page and debate how it's drawn. It's just very hard for me to see, and I just finally decided, okay, he's got arms, he rebuilt himself, and I just left it at that. Yeah. Maybe he was good enough to do it with his mouth. I don't know. But, yeah. What was your original question? Because
what'd you think about
the refrigerator? The refrigerator is hysterical. Somebody pointed out to me. It's been pointed out to me a couple times in the comments that sometimes I miss the obvious humor of a situation.
Yeah.
In Water 7, I don't think I missed a single joke.
Yeah.
Whether it was an obvious one or one of those small ones in the background, there's these moments of comedy in the middle of all of this. It's just fun.
Yeah.
And the refrigerator was the obvious.
Yeah.
He runs on cola.
Yeah. So and that's, can you tell Frankie is supposed to be an American? So he's supposed to be an American. It's actually, you know, when Oda went down and listed the nationalities of all the big characters, Frankie was an American. You know, now, like Luffy is Brazilian.
Gotcha.
And Zoro is Japanese, and
I'm not surprised, but I'm not going to read too much into that. I mean, it never even occurred to me.
Fun, you know. His hair is modeled after Ace Ventura.
Okay, yeah.
So
This
is fun. This is great. Love him. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. It's Water 7. There's just a lot,
There is.
and there's only more. There's only more coming in Enies Lobby. Thankfully, after the arc that follows this Enies Water 7 saga is Thriller Bark, and it comparatively is kind of a chiller arc. Comparatively,
Yes.
It kind of calms down. It's nowhere near on the scale quite as this whole section of story. It's still fun, still good.
With the name.
There's I know, right? But there's great moments in there. But we have a
more
stretch.
subdued.
Yeah, it's a lot more subdued.
It's much more subdued.
Which
Thriller Bark, which
the
comes,
next saga.
Oh, gotcha.
yeah,
Okay.
it comes after Post Water 7.
Gotcha.
Really fun. But yeah, no, Enies Lobby. I hope you're ready, because
Well, ready is I'm going to be. One thing, and I'll leave you with this. I was in my effort to answer all of the comments that come in.
Yeah.
Because we're still at a point where they come in at a pace where I can answer them.
yeah,
I pointed out to one of our followers that they have the benefit of having read and reread this multiple times, whereas I'm going through it on the first run.
Yeah.
So bear with me if I miss something. Instrumental, and it made me realize I'm going to get to the end of this at some point. And I'm going to want to go back to the beginning and reread.
yeah. You're going to want to reread it with that hindsight.
Well, yeah.
That was pointed out.
Yeah. And you pick up on stuff and you're like, oh, well, that was foreshadowing, and you know how bad I am at that.
Yeah.
So. Yes.
Well, yeah, and so I'm sitting here, doing my first time run through all of this, surrounded by people who know everything that's been published up to this point, and just doing my best, trying to figure it out.
Yeah. All right.
This was good.
Glad you had fun.
Yeah.
This was.
Hold on to your seats.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Because
Here it comes. This is what you've been waiting for.
This is what I've been waiting for. This is what you've been waiting for.
So.
Enies Lobby is next.
All right, I'm gonna dive in.
Yeah.
I've read 376. One chapter in Enies Lobby.
Yeah. Well, it'll be.
It's a page turn.
It'll be rock and roll.
It's a page turner. I will get you those chapters before we go.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. I know you have it, because I'm pretty sure I saw Post Water 7 and Thriller Bark books in the haul that he got.
Well, he bought like
he
8
Oh yeah, no,
10 books or
I've
something.
got it.
So I'm pretty sure you've got it.
If not, Amazon delivers.
Yeah.
The library. I mean, that shelf is this wide with One Piece books now, which just makes every time I see it, I have to eat crow.
Yeah.
So
much crow.
We have one follower, and I apologize for not remembering your name, who said that they're waiting to watch Long Ring Long Land until this is posted so that they can do the whole thing. And
Yikes.
I am just so impressed
If
by
I remember, the last one was an hour and a half, and we're approaching that hour and a half.
Yeah.
This is going to be close to 3 hours long.
4.5 hours of my voice. I'd hang myself if I had to listen to that.
I already made the joke last time, so.
Yeah, so anyway, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
That's Water 7, I think. We're going to move on to Enies Lobby.
Right, so your thoughts, thank you for all the spoiler warnings. I don't read them. Leave your comments below. What did we miss?
Thank you for your patience in us getting this out. It's been a crazy few weeks, but we're back.
Yep.
And we're gonna keep coming. Keep them coming.
All right.
All right.
That's it for this edition. This edition
of
Pork Chops, Rice, and Peaches. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.